But I think the development of full artificial intelligence would spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object, and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody's checking it out.
It was a rocket or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. It was too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
So you said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? Please help me!
Aliens won't let it happen. That's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
1, self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio.
Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness. Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and hello to all of you who may also have troubled minds. What's going on, guys? It is exactly Wednesday, and Wednesday night means it's one of the nights we get together and talk about all the things we're not allowed to talk about. That would be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. And what are those things we're not allowed to talk about, you may wonder? Well, there's too much to explain, so let me sum up. And of course, those things are aliens, conspiracy, the paranormal, the government, academia, the 24-hour news cycle, propaganda, and the general feeling that we live in the upside down. Of course, right? What that means is a lot of things. It means that there's been lots of talk about, a supernatural war at play. It means that maybe the ancient religions of old are actually maybe onto something and we're missing it in the modern day. It means that maybe somehow, some way, there's something maybe cosmic at play that has nothing to do with us at all, that we're kind of stuck in as part of this construct, whatever this construct may or may not be. I don't know. I don't have answers to any of these questions, really, because this is not the answers show. And if you, again, I'm going to keep saying this because this is one of those things that is... at least to me, it frightens me a little bit that answers are so easy anymore. Meaning that you could just go turn on, like I always say, this propaganda and in so many capacities, and just say, oh well, this is here are the answers, and sure, fine, that's fine. There may be answers, personal answers. I can see that, but I mean, just because you think you have the answers, not you out there listening, but I don't know, say Don Lemon or Sean Hannity, like guys like this, just because they say they have the answers, or Tucker Carlson, or it's Anderson Blooper, whatever his name is. Like basically, look. The world is a complicated place, okay? And I think that in many times we talk about technology, we talk about magic, we talk about how the two of them maybe sort of come together in some ways. And that, of course, if we did encounter a sufficiently advanced technology, or alien species, for instance, and they had that sufficiently advanced technology, we would perceive it as magic, all right? But it doesn't mean it may not be magic. Maybe science, when you get down to the quantum level in so many ways, maybe science is magic, right? Maybe it's the same damn thing. We just are sort of too obtuse as modern people, too proud to really consider that the ancients maybe had things right and we had them wrong. I don't know. Again, I don't have any answers to really any of this stuff other than I'd like to consider the possibilities. And as you know, we do something on the show called Drinking the Maybe Juice. And what that means is it's just in a nutshell, it's a goofball way of saying that the old good old-fashioned Aristotle said it is the mark of an educated mind to consider a thought without accepting it. And that's basically what maybe juice means. That's all it means. We drink the maybe juice. We talk about these things, not just, like I'm glad somebody in the chat said this a few days ago, but we sort of don't go deep here. We go more wide and look at all of the possibilities that may be, again, mythological, magical, esoteric or not, or just a good old-fashioned boots on the ground in the real world, right? We do all that stuff because, of course, it's important to look at all the angles, in my opinion. So it's not necessarily like everybody's like, oh, we go a deep dive. Not really. It's more like a wide dive and sort of let's collect as many things as possible that sort of fit into some of these ideas. So there you go. That's where we begin, and that's where all this starts. And I think it's a good thing. I think this is, again, I've learned so much from not just doing this show and sort of digging into a lot of the topics that people talk about. For instance, giants. We're going to talk about giants tonight, and in the sense that are they real? Basically, is this one of those things you can go back and talk about the biblical Nephilim? You can talk about the Titans of old from Tartarus. You can talk about all this stuff, but there's some people that just believe it, like absolutely believe it 100%. And I'm not judging that. I'm just saying, hey, like, is there something to this? Let's have a discussion about it, and let's maybe get to the bottom of it. Let's learn a little bit about things that maybe we didn't know, because there's going to be people out there that do really contribute to this conversation as it goes. Which gets me to the point of all this, all this rambling. It is a talk show, by the way. So if you're like, why is this guy talking so much? I have to tell you, you're probably in the wrong place. I'm just going to say that's probably what's going on. So just FYI. But okay. So that's my long-winded way of saying that if you want to be part of the show, the secret weapon of troubled minds is, of course, you. Like I said last night, and I mean this. This is the truth. If you go back and listen to the old days when I was doing a lot of shows by myself after the first co-host left, Frank. What's up, Frank? If you're out there, I miss you, buddy. Looking to hear from you. Where the heck are you? And so the thing is that. Doing them myself, it was good because I was digging really, really deep, really, really wide, just learning a ton of stuff about a ton of things. But, this show really didn't come into its own until people started calling, and not just calling on a regular basis, and really considering all the things that are really happening, maybe not just in the real world, but maybe also in the spiritual world, maybe in that esoteric or magical world, or all the things combined, maybe in the scientific world. And so it really turned into that the secret weapon of troubled minds is the individual out there listening and teaching me something I didn't know, teaching the people listening something they may not have known. And that's the thing, right? That's what this is all about. So if you want to be part of the show tonight, you can give us a call at 702-957. I'm talking during the music. Wait, what? Is there music going right now? There shouldn't be music going right now. Let me, wait. Okay, all right. You're freaking me out here. You can't be telling me stuff like this. All right, hold on. Let me make sure all the buttons are pressed appropriately. You'll freak me out. See, look, you just blew my train of thought by saying you're talking during the music. What's going on here? Is there music going on? Okay, all right. See, look, come on. Hey, I'm talking here. All right, so anyway. So, secret weapon of troubled minds is you. If you want to be part of the show at any point tonight, 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. And let's see, what else do we got? We got that, the troubledminds.org phone number. Join the Discord. We are streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, and Twitter, and we're broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. And what that means is we're watching chat. I'm watching chat in all those places and trying to keep up with all of your thoughts out there, because again, as we go, right, you can sort of contribute to the show through chat. And if you just want to type some ideas down there, and please don't freak me out like that and tell me I'm talking over the music when there's no music. Come on now, I'm talking here. No, but I mean, I'm trying to incorporate all of your thoughts as we go sort of into the show, and it's not as easy as it looks. looks sometimes. So I'm just saying, please don't mess with me in the chat. But I am reading the chat in all the places, and that's what's going on. That's what's happening. And yeah, what's up, Catalina? I see you over there on the Fringe Discord. Speaking of the Fringe Discord, please join that. You go to fringe.fm/chat. That's a direct invite to the Fringe Discord server. And of course, the easiest way to listen to Troubled Minds is by downloading the Fringe app. You can find it at the Apple or Android app stores. It's completely free. Just called Fringe FM, and search that, download it, and it's the easiest way to listen to Troubled Minds Monday through Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific. Just smash the play button. You'll get me. You'll get the other amazing people that contribute to the show and call in, and hopefully you'll get a worthwhile and amazing conversation. And I think that winds us out, except for what's up to Crabapple. Thank you. Shout out to Crabapple over on Rockfin for the tip over there. I appreciate that very much. Thanks for being consistent and spending a lot of time with us, and thank you for your generous tips over time. It means a lot to me. Thank you for appreciating the work we do here. All right, so let's do this. What we're doing tonight is I've been a little, let's say, bereft of inspiration, okay? And last night, you may have been able to tell, sometimes you're not really right in your own head, okay? And whatever that means, I don't know. If I had those answers, I would be able to just tell you the answers, but this is not the answer show. And in many cases, even for my own self, I don't have the answers there either. All right, so in any case, I asked last night, I found this article, and I thought it was pretty fantastic. And I asked my good friends James and Derek, and threw it out to Rohan and Jennifer as well, and said, hey, is this worthy of discussion? You think there's something here, guys? And well, wouldn't you know? Let's go to sciencealert.com. So shout out to Night Stalker, shout out to James for pumping some ideas into this and getting this going. So here we go. This is from Science Alert. And check this out. There's a lot going on here with the planet Earth, not just in terms of, well, I don't know, World War III? Well, it depends on who you ask, right? But also scientifically. And there's this. Primordial helium from billions of years ago seems to be leaking out of Earth's core. Uh-oh. Now, what exactly does that mean? All right, let's read a little bit of this. Now the craziest part about this, the term primordial helium, and that doesn't mean as part of the, Earth was just kind of formed and, had some helium in the middle. This is a primordial helium from literally, they're saying it's from the Big Bang. Listen to this. Ancient primordial helium that was forged in the wake of the Big Bang is leaking from Earth's core, scientists report in a new study. And there's no cause for alarm, it says, this article. Earth isn't deflating like a sad balloon. Well, depends on who you ask as well. What it does mean is that the Earth formed inside a solar nebula, the molecular cloud that gave birth to the sun, a detail about our planet's birth that has long been unresolved. It also suggests that other primordial gases may be leaking from Earth's core into the mantle, which in turn could yield information about the composition of that solar nebula. Helium on Earth, of course, comes in two stable isotopes. By far, the most common is helium-4, with a nucleus containing 2 protons and 2 neutrons, and this part will be super brief. Don't worry, this is not a science lesson, and I'm not a scientist, so I barely understand half of this. Anyway, so helium-4 accounts for around 99.99986% of all the helium on our planet, all right? And this is how they know it's primordial helium, okay? Helium-4. It's the normal helium we have on the planet. And Ronald wants to know, does primordial helium make your voice 3 octaves higher? Maybe. Maybe. So helium-4, all right, that's the one that we all know. That is the one that does make your voice 3 octaves higher, the regular helium-4. The other stable isotope, accounting for just 0.000137% of Earth's helium, is helium-3, with 2 protons and 1 neutron. So, of course, helium-4 is primarily the product of the radioactive decay of uranium and thorium made right here on Earth. By contrast, helium-3 is mostly primordial, formed in the moments after the Big Bang, but it can also be produced by the radioactive decay of tritium. It's the helium-3 isotope that has been detected leaking out of Earth's interior, mostly along the mid-ocean ocean volcanic ridge system, giving us a pretty good indication at the rate of which it escapes the crust. The rate is about 2,200 grams or 4.4 pounds a year, which is not a lot, of course, but, quote, about enough to fill a balloon the size of your desk, explains geophysicist Peter Olson from the University of New Mexico. Continue, quote, it's a wonder of nature and a clue for the history of the Earth that there's still a significant amount of this isotope in the interior of the Earth. All right. Now, so interestingly, I threw this out to James and Derek last night, and I said, hey, is there something to this? It seems like, the center of the Earth, right? That sort of thing. Maybe a Gartha. I don't know. Like, is there anything here? Is there really anything here? And they had some ideas. And of course, right, you get brilliant people and brilliant friends that I've made in the course of doing this show. Again, shout out, what's up, James of Salcedo Paranormal, and of course, the Night Stalker, Derek, is who I'm talking about. But they threw out some ideas. And Derek said, well, what about, how about the gates of Tartarus maybe slowly coming open? And I was like, yes, yes. So check it out. Check it out. So think of it in those terms. All right. So first off, what about this idea that number one? Okay. So the first question is this regarding Tartarus. All right. We're going to just say we're going to start here and take this as Tartarus just for a moment. Again, drinking the maybe juice, considering all the things. And what we're going to do is Tartarus, of course, is where it's sub Hades. Okay, if you want to go to Greek mythology, Hades, of course, is where the spirits of the underworld reside. Hades, the god himself, the three-headed dog of the underworld guarding the entrance, the river Styx. We've talked about all this in the past. But the thing is, beyond Hades, in a land that's really unreachable by most humans and even Titans themselves, is a place called Tartarus. All right. And we're going to get to Tartarus. We'll get to that a little bit more in depth as we go tonight. But the question becomes, all right, so if there's this thing called Tartarus and this primordial helium is leaking from the center of the Earth, is this a doorway to Tartarus possibly opening, as Night Stalker kind of mused a little bit last night? And I'm thinking the same thing, just in terms of what's really going on. Why is it leaking? Where is this coming from? We're talking about primordial gas from the Big Bang itself, all right? So now we've got that. The second thing is Tartarus is famous for, as you probably have heard in the past or in other places, the movies, ancient Greek mythology, Tartarus is famous for the Clash of the Titans. Of course, the Titans were the primordial gods that came before the gods themselves, and of course began a big war between these monstrous, gigantic, titanic beings, otherwise known as the Titans, and they ended up warring with the gods, of course, Olympia, Mount Olympus, and it's a long and sordid tale, of course. But so the question becomes tonight. So we're going to get to Tartarus. We're going to get to this primordial Earth. We're going to get to Titans. But the question becomes this, right? It got me thinking in these terms. Okay, so pretty much every mythology the world over is like, yeah, giants, right? There's giants. Not just giants like, again, Titans, yes, of course, that kind of fits into this as sort of that primordial god before the actual, let's say civilized gods or whatever, however you want to frame them or deem this. But in terms of the next step, you can go to like the biblical Nephilim, right? That's another one where they said basically giants ruled the world, right? Back in the day, and there was a huge war and with giants and all the rest of this stuff, and they took the daughters of men for their wives, and created this like gigantic race of just a monstrosity, hybrid type giant beings, right? So anyway, there's a lot to this. Not just again with Greek mythology. You can pretty much trace any mythology. I was looking at Norse mythology tonight. They've got like ice giants. They've got the realm of the giants that actual Thor and Loki quested to. The more I kept reading, the more I kept finding in literally every single ancient mythology, giants the world over. And so the question I have for you tonight, okay, as we begin, we got a lot to talk about, of course, as always. But the question I have for you as we get going, so there's a lot of accounts, again, ancient mythology, mythologically speaking, folklore, this type of thing, regarding giants themselves. Now, do you think at any point ever in the history of the world that this idea of a giant, like a giant humanoid, actually did exist? And that could be any time. That could be, again, we're talking about the primordial earth here. We're talking about as far back as you want to go. At any point ever, do you think giants actually existed? Again, biblically, kinda. The Nephilim are sort of giants. In Norse mythology, yeah, kinda. They have not just the ice giants. I've got the terms for these. I'll pull up. They've got the land of the giants, and again, as very similar to Greek mythology, the Norse mythology had the gods themselves battling with these giants constantly. It was like the main antagonist of basically the strife with the gods before there was people and all the rest of this. So there seems to be a lot of this mirroring of not just these giants in terms of history, but also these giants in terms of a war, like an ancient war happening with, well, the way these gods conducted their business. They kind of ran into the Titans, they ran into the giants, they ran into a bunch of this stuff. And so that's what's on my mind tonight. That's where we begin. And of course, as you know, we can take this wherever you want to go, open-ended, non-linear. If you want to turn this into, I don't know, maybe plasma beings are escaping from the center of the earth. What's up, James? Which is another good one, which we'll get to that as well. There's actually some ideas that sort of back that up scientifically. So we'll look at some of this stuff and take it wherever you want to take this. But the first question on my mind tonight, and the question for you guys, is this. At any point ever in the history of Earth, do you think giants actually existed? Humanoid giants. We'll look a little bit at Lovelock Cave with those red-headed cannibal giants. We'll look a little bit at the legend of the giant of Kandahar, which is a modern giant tale. We got all kinds of stuff here to really look at. Again, the stories of the Titans and Tartarus itself. So again, back to this. So we have this. Back to Science Alert. Primordial helium from billions of years ago seems to be leaking out of the Earth's core. So if we're talking about Hades or hell or whatever you want to call it in any sort of mythology, or let's say religion, I'm sorry if I offended anybody that way, but I mean, whatever you want to call it, what lies beneath Hades? And is it indeed this idea of Tartarus? And if it is, where are the Titans? Where are the giants? If they ever existed, where did they go? Lots of ideas here to kind of kick this off. But what are your thoughts? Like I said, it really depends a lot on, as always, what you believe. Where this begins, where this ends is what you believe, or what you're willing to entertain as a thought, right? And that's the whole idea here. Is it's not, like I said, I'm not going to try and tell you giants are here, or giants have been here, or giants in any capacity ever, anything ever, right? I'm not the answers guy. But it makes me wonder. It makes me wonder if somehow, some way, in the ancient past, there were giants or titans or any mixture of or combination of the two. It does make me wonder, where have they gone? And now, if we have a little door opening, leaking primordial helium, possibly from Tartarus itself, what does that mean for the future? What's up? What's up? Shout out to Night Stalker out there. Running with your Titans idea, brother. This is all yours. You and James, appreciate the inspiration last night. All right, so here's what we're doing. Right, we're going to do that. That's what we're talking about. That's what's on my mind tonight. And I'd like to know, what do you think? Were there ever giants on this earth? And if there were, where did they go? There you go. I think that's as good a start as any. We can call that a segment on the radio. Now, as always, you're the secret weapon of troubled minds. So, teach me something I don't know, because I'm sure you know something I don't. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. You can click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. It's as simple as that. And the question tonight, once again, is this. If there's an opening ever so slightly to Tartarus itself, where the Titans came from, and where the Titans maybe currently reside, are there giants of the world? Are there Titans? Where did they go? 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. More after the break. Be right back. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we are streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, and Twitter. And we are broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. We're taking your phone calls tonight, as every night. But tonight, we're discussing the idea of giants, titans, from a primordial Earth. Do you think somehow, some way, at any point ever, giants actually existed? That's what's on my mind tonight. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. And like I said, there's a whole lot of different mythologies and ideas and all the rest of this stuff regarding giants in particular. And like I said, some people believe without a doubt that giants are real, have been real, and maybe even still walk this earth somewhere. I think if you think in terms of sort of conspiracy type stuff, clearly you can say that the giants themselves, let's say in modern times, probably, what about Bigfoot? I mean, would that kind of qualify as possibly a giant from the old days, from the ancient times that is stomping around out there somewhere, maybe in a, I don't know, maybe a demigod sort of form, and it's just, maybe there's only one of them, and that's why the sightings are so rare, and who knows, maybe some mystical properties there, I don't know. I think there's a lot of things that sort of fit into this idea regarding the idea of a giant, and giants, whether they ever did exist or not. So what are your thoughts on this? Like I said, there's a lot of ways to look at this, again, at titans or giants or anywhere in between, and we're kicking this open with the idea of this, again, primordial helium leaking from the center of the earth. And well, what's in the center of the earth? Is that Tartarus itself? So you tell me. A couple more shout outs real quick over on Fringe. We got Catalina's here. We got ENS Works. We got S Magician. What's up, guys? I see you over there. And let's go. Let's do this. So looking to hear from you. 702-957-1037. Is there an idea here that intrigues you regarding giants themselves? Let's go. Let's do a little bit more. So clearly, I went to one of the best sources here, in my opinion, ancientorigins.net. It's ancient-origins.net. And there's a lot of good ideas here regarding not just why maybe there isn't giants anymore. Well, of course, we've heard the idea of the biblical giants, and again, the Nephilim and the flood that maybe wiped a bunch of them out, which is part of the reason for the flood. And by some accounts, in other accounts, some of them survived the flood or were able to repopulate after the flood. So it just depends on the source that you're kind of looking at. As always, right? Even some of the most contemporary, at least, let's say religious sources still don't agree on everything, because there's a whole lot of, I don't know, religious rhetoric, or I don't know. How come there's 4 accounts in the New Testament of the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? I mean, hey, why is it all a little different? What's going on with this? So I don't know. So real quick, let's just do this, and then we'll get to James. I see you there, James. Hang tight 1 sec. So we got to ancientorigins.net. It says this. Of course, that a race of or races of giants once existed throughout the world, from China to North America, is a matter attested to not only the written records of various civilizations, but in the archaeological record as well. As Jason Jarrell and Sarah Farmer note, the vast number of gigantic humanoid skeletal remains excavated in the North American region alone makes it statistically highly unlikely for us to interpret all of them as genetic anomalies, as mainstream scholars often do. And this article basically starts with the premise that giants were here. Yet this observation leads us immediately to another problematic question. If giants as a race or races once existed in antiquity, where do they exist now? What happened to them? What factors led to their extinction? So that's where we start. And again, we're beginning with this idea that there's basically a very rare helium signature. What was it? Helium-3, I believe this was. Yeah, helium-3, right? Which consists of just 0.000137% of all of Earth's helium, and they call it primordial helium that actually was created as part of the Big Bang. But then it's now actually leaking from the luminous center of the Earth. So, of course, Derek's brilliance and James's brilliance, and they were like, well, what about this and this and this? So the idea is, if we're looking at maybe Tartarus and the door has maybe been kicked open ajar, is this what's happening here? And it got me thinking after that conversation last night about giants themselves. How does all this fit in? What do you think is going on here? One more time, 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show just like this. James Salcido. James in Michigan, what's up, my friend? Welcome to Troubled Minds. How are you tonight?
I'm good. Very, very neat addition to the stuff we discussed last night. As you said, the giants part of it.
Yeah, right. Let's get it together, put our heads together, and pour some maybe juice on it, and come up with a monstrosity. Here we are. So you had some ideas of this. How about giants first, and then we can get to your other ideas. What do you think about giants ever having been on this planet? You think that's just ridiculous, or you think maybe from the things you've heard or read or seen in your lifetime that maybe there's some truth to this idea?
Well, the thing I always come back to with mythologies is there are so many different ones around the world, but they all seem to have, at least many of them do, seem to have similarities in terms of giants, in terms of other things too. But I think in terms of giants and everything, maybe the details of what they look like might differ a little bit. I would imagine from here to there. Especially given the weather in any, like one area versus another area. Like you mentioned, the idea of frost or ice giants. I'm guessing they would look different than anything that would be out in deserts, I would think there'd be different appearances that way. But, and there is, so just going back to something I read recently, for one of my shows I did on mountains, there's at least one mountain in the world where something happened, we don't know how far back, that maybe it was an impact of some kind, but basically there's this mountain, and I forget where it's at now because I just literally thought of this, that is called the Upside Down Mountain, where there is material that was brought up from deeper into the earth that somehow landed on top of this mountain that made up the top of the mountain. Okay, that's interesting. Go ahead. That can happen. Yeah, so if that can happen, then who knows what we can have buried under there. Even if it's just remains of giants. I also feel like between the mythologies and then the different reports, I'm sure almost all of us have heard reports of bones being found all around, I believe just different parts of the U.S., probably other areas too that I don't know of, that seem to be too big for regular people. Okay, which means maybe, right? Is this a solid maybe for you? Yeah, definitely, it is. Okay. All right. And so there are some, again, there's so many accounts, like I said, you can kind of just trace it down the world over. And there seems to be a consensus that at some point in the ancient past, that there were giants and, even people battling with them. And again, some native traditions here, like Lovelock Cave in Nevada. We can talk about that a little bit later. Again, a modern account. Again, I'm not sure how accurate or reliable the account is. It's from an anonymous source, maybe making stuff up. But the Giant of Kandahar is another one that's a recent tale of this. But you can trace all these back to thousands and thousands of years ago. And again, does it fit into the idea of maybe Bigfoot to you? Right, or maybe in the Andes, let's say the abominable snowman, the Yeti. Do you think that maybe somehow, some way that maybe plays into this as, again, a misinterpretation of what we're seeing? It's maybe an actual intelligent hominid that's I don't know, a demigod of old. What do you think of that? Yeah, it could even be maybe that these different Bigfoot versions, maybe they're even descendants of something that was even bigger than them. Maybe they're big to us, but then to whatever was here before them, maybe they're not so big. Okay, I like it. Maybe this is the thousandth generation down, and they got smaller and smaller. Because it would make sense too that especially from all the tales that I've read regarding giants in the past, the Titans and all the rest of this, the giants never seem to be just chill dudes. It was always like just a super barbaric wars. It was like always wars with giants, always wars with the Titans, the gods and the Titans, the giants and the people. I mean, it seems like they were just sort of the original warmongers. Maybe, James, we're descended from the giants because we're pretty good warmongers as people.
Yeah.
Okay,
at least some anyway.
Yeah, right, exactly. Some of us anyway, let's say. But okay, so what about, anything else on giants? And then you had another idea about maybe something leaking out from the center of the earth last night, but we could talk about that as well. But anything else on giants and Titans while we're here in this moment?
Well, I kind of have a possible bridge between those two. I was thinking about it in chat here earlier. If we think about it, just going to, again, ghost stories. If we see people as they are, in terms of size and shape and everything, what would the spirit of a giant look like?
That's a hell of a question. That's well spoken by a guy who does a paranormal podcast. That's a good question. If that's the case, and spirits are spirits, what would the spirit of a giant look like? I like it. I think I see where you're heading with this. What would they look like? What's your theory?
Or would they still have the humanoid shape, or would they just be larger masses of energy, maybe even plasma, which we know, I mean, there's lava, there's heat in the center of the planet, and there's energy, there's electromagnetic energy. So maybe some of this helium, along with it, because my idea was, if we know that helium is this certain kind of helium is coming out, what else is coming out that maybe we haven't figured out yet?
Yes. So I like the link. Meaning, what are this stuff leaking out, and what else may leak out? Number one, what does a giant's spirit or soul or ghost look like? Well spoken from our paranormal expert here, James of Salcedo Paranormal Podcast. But then again, is there a link in? There's actually this thing called. I'll bring this up now so we can kind of add this to the discussion. There's a thing called a plasmoid. You ever heard of this? You brought it up last night, but I don't think you used this term. Let me read this real quick. A plasmoid is a coherent structure of plasma and magnetic fields. Plasmoids have been proposed to explain natural phenomena such as ball lightning, magnetic bubbles in the magnetosphere, and objects in cometary tails, in solar winds, in the solar atmosphere, and the heliospheric current sheet. Plasmoids produced in the laboratory include field reversed configurations, spheromax, and dense plasma focuses. And this term, now this is the craziest part here, this kind of gets to exactly what you're saying. The word plasmoid was coined in 1956 by Winston H. Bostick, B-O-S-T-I-C-K, to mean a plasma magnetic entity.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that what you were talking about last night?
Yeah. I mean, I never really knew a lot. Like, I don't know a lot about plasma in general. Just the idea that these different plasma fields could be sentient, but then we don't know what they are. But yeah, that does sound like that. And I mean, just how big are the giants? Which then means just how big would one of these be if it escapes? We already hear about smaller things that some people think might be these plasma fields that people see in the sky anyway now that are visible. They're basically UFOs.
Exactly. Even I've claimed that it's possible that these Tic Tacs and whatnot in ufology recently
are plasma, either plasma radar spoofs, or I guess in this term we could actually call them, which I didn't even know was a term, a plasmoid, which seems to be a plasma entity. That's pretty wild, right? I had no idea it was a thing until you brought it up last night. I looked it up and I'm like, oh crap, there's a word for this. And apparently there's some scientists that believe it could be a thing. And so I guess the question is, what's leaking out of Tartarus, James?
Yeah, who knows? Any number of beings. Who knows what they are? I mean, I know we kind of have names for the different mythological beings and all that, but that's the names that humans have put on these things, and maybe even the descriptions we put on these things. So who knows if whatever comes out would look like that, like anything from mythology or not, or somewhat. I think we just have to keep watching. I think we just have to just keep watching this for stories like this, for stories about the center of the world and what could be coming out of it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think it's interesting, too, to note that are these things happening as a recent development, or are we just discovering them and they've been happening for a long time? I think that's a really probably poignant distinction there between the two things. So I guess if we just found it, we wouldn't really know, would we? So like you said, I think that's the best way. Keep our eyes on the news cycles, try and decipher what they're actually telling us, and keep our eyes on the skies. You're the best, brother. You're the best. James here has a podcast called Salcedo Paranormal. Please check it out. Links in the description down below. He is our resident paranormal expert, though he doesn't like the term. I'm going to keep calling him that till it sticks. The famous James Salcedo, our resident paranormal expert. Give him some love on his podcast. I would appreciate that very much, guys. A good friend of mine, very good dude. And this show partially inspired by James last night. So thank you for that as well, my friend. Thanks for the mutual inspiration, and you're the best. Always a pleasure.
No problem. Have a good night.
Thanks a lot. You too. There you go. 702-957-1037. What do you think? What about this idea? Now we'll add plasmoids to the mix. What is actually residing in Tartarus itself? You tell me. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And did giants ever exist on this planet? And if so, where did they go? Let's go to, I'm not exactly sure who this is. Welcome to Troubled Minds. What's your first name and where are you calling from?
Elliot, Austin, Texas.
Elliot in Texas. Go right ahead. Welcome to Troubled Minds.
Can you hear me all right?
Loud and clear. Loud and clear. Go right ahead. So do you think giants existed at some point?
So yeah, I think it's definitely very plausible. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Loud and clear.
Okay. My bad. So right here, I've got the Book of Enoch. A couple of years back, I've been listening to a lot of Ancient Aliens, and the guy on there who wrote Chariot of the Gods, he referenced this book a lot, and they kind of talk about the giants and kind of their origins, and they also talk about like what happens to them when they die and go into spirit form.
Oh, sweet. Okay. Please let us know. I'd love to hear this.
All right. I'll give you a quick rundown.
Sure.
Let's see. Sorry, this is my first time calling in like anywhere, so a little nervous.
That's okay. I got you. All
right.
If you need a minute to collect your thoughts, I got you. Just let me know.
I think I got it. So the Book of Enoch, there's some debate whether it's inspired. I'm not really sure. But according to the theory, like it used to be kind of one of the Christian Gospels. Kind of odd, but supposedly there were 200 angels. They were like the Watchers who descended on Mount Hermon, and they made like this pact between them. And I think they ended up all taking wives for themselves. It says, and all of them together went, took wives for themselves, each choosing one for himself, and they began to go into them and to defile themselves with sex with them. And the women became pregnant, and they bore large giants whose height was 3,000 cubits. Which I'm not quite sure what a cubit is. And then it goes, the giants consumed all the work and toil of men, and when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against the birds and the beasts and the reptiles and the fish, to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. And I think from there, it seems like the flood event might come. I'm not quite sure how they died, but here it goes. And at the end of the giants, spirits will go out, and they shall destroy without incurring judgment, Coming from their bodies, their flesh shall be destroyed until the day of consummation, the great judgment in which the age shall be consummated over the watchers and the godless, and shall be wholly consummated. So.
Okay, so a cubit.
Yeah, here it says basically,
just real quick, a cubit is an ancient measurement of about 18 inches. So if they were 3,000 cubits long, that's going to be about, 3,500 feet or something like that. So these things were gigantic. These were not, like an ogre, right? That type of giant. This thing was, whatever they're talking about was immense, super, super big.
Yeah, and it sounds like they basically ended up eating everything on the earth and then kind of turning on themselves. But as far as like the size, it kind of seems like kind of impossible. But as far as like the spirits, it also says like, these spirits, like once they come out, it says they shall live on earth. They come out from their bodies because they are born from men and from the holy watchers. Their beginning is of primal origin. They shall be evil spirits on earth. They shall be called the spirits of the evil ones. And the spirits of the giants afflict, oppress, destroy, attack, war, destroy, and cause the trouble on the earth. So according to them, they're like evil spirits that cause war and stuff.
Interesting. And exactly like James said, too. He said, so what would the spirit of these things look like? And if we're talking in terms of, let's say they are immense, as large as 3,000 cubits in size, their spirits would be immense as well. And again, like you said, doing evil things. That's pretty wild from the Book of Enoch. I love that. Have you read most of the Book of Enoch or even several times?
I haven't finished it. Just I was into it when I was like doing a lot of meditation, and I kind of got into like astral projection. And at the time, it was really weird because I thought I had gotten like abducted by aliens. But I think that's for another story.
Sure. Love to hear that sometime for sure.
As far as giants go, I've seen a lot of things where like ancient history or like mud flood kind of stuff where, especially in the Americas, where there might be like giants. But supposedly whenever they show up, people like show up from or the Smithsonian or something, and they kind of like suppress it. So I don't know if that's conspiracy stuff or what, but
yeah, I've heard that as well. I have heard that as well, and in some cases it seems there's some truth to that. In some cases it seems like it's concocted for stories. So as always, right, it's difficult to tell what the hell is really going on out there. Amazing stuff. Let me ask you, we got like a minute left before we got to go to a break. How did you find the show, my friend?
I think just, honestly, I can't recall right now. I think I was looking for stuff outside of the norm as far as like podcasts, and I was just tired of like political crap, and not really sure. Just browsing around.
Gotcha. Spotify though, or do you find us? Where did you find us? What was the actual platform? YouTube?
Yeah, it was through Spotify, but then I couldn't ever sync the call. That's why tonight's my first time calling, because I was always like listening like way like the next day.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Monday through Thursday, 7 p.m. Pacific time. We go for about 2 hours on the radio, a third hour off the radio. I appreciate you listening very much. Thanks for like actually being engaged with the conversation and thinking about these things. And thanks for bringing something new that I hadn't heard of and a little bit from the Book of Enoch. I appreciate it very much. You're welcome back anytime. Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Have a fantastic night. That's Elliot in Texas. Thanks for the phone call. And there you go. See, this is exactly why we do it. You're bound to learn something you haven't heard before. Real quick, too, let's add to this. So over on the Fringe Discord as well, Catalina adds, some giants were slain. Some giants left the planet. Some giants are sleeping on Earth. Some giants may have died from Earth changes, but there were many different groups of giants. One size did not fit all. Allegedly, Enoch, and here we go back to Enoch, just what Elliot said, in the time of mystery, the giants will wake up. Are we now living in the time of mystery? Shout out to Catalina. Good stuff. Shout out to Elliot. Thanks for the fantastic phone calls and fantastic chat. That's what I'm saying, right? I'm reading the chat too. I see you guys out there. So if you got stuff to add, drop it in the chat and I'll try and work it into the conversation here. But there we go. A little too much talking for Michael Strange. Let's smash the music and let's get the hell out of here. You're listening to Troubled Minds. This is Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. More Giants, Primordial, Helium, and Tartarus. When we return, be right back.
we are talking about the alien abduction phenomenon. Aliens.
The aliens are looking through your eyes and they're accessing your optic nerve. I'm doing that. Through that optic nerve, they're transferring to your brain. People are random images as they traverse neurons in the brain.
So all right. So maybe,
and they also feel them planting or receiving memories, or ideas, or images.
Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness. Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and hello to all of you who may also have troubled minds. What's going on, guys? It is Wednesday night, which is one of the nights we get together and talk about all the things we're not allowed to talk about. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific. What are all those things, you may wonder? Well, there's too much for me to explain, so let me sum up. Aliens, conspiracy, the paranormal, the government, academia, the 24-hour news cycle, propaganda, and the general feeling that we live in the upside down. Of course, we're taking your calls as always as we stream on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, and Twitter, and of course, broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. And we're talking about this article from Science Alert. Primordial helium from billions of years ago seems to be leaking out of the Earth's core. Do you think somehow, some way, wink wink, this is involved with Tartarus, with some sort of, I don't know, plasmoid beings maybe escaping from the center of the Earth? Do you think this has anything to do with titans or giants? Because, of course, this is Troubled Minds. You see how I made that leap? If you were not listening to the first hour, you're confused as hell, but that's okay. We're going to fill in the gaps. We've been talking about this quite a lot. Love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think at any point in history, ever, there actually were titans or were giants, physically or even otherwise? Let's say as maybe demigods or let's say spirit form or things like this, right? Of course, this is a paranormal type show as well. We take all comers on all ideas on this. And again, like James said, Salcedo Paranormal, maybe these are plasmoids. Maybe we're seeing some sort of leakage from the center of the Earth. Oh, I don't know. In Tartarus, of course, if you remember, that was the place where they cast not just the titans in the old days when they finally banished them, but also the worst spirits that were really unable to be held in Hades. So I don't know. You tell me. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. We'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. And of course, the way this goes is it's non-linear, open-ended. Where do you want to take it? So let's go to Derek in Massachusetts, the Night Stalker. This is his fault, by the way. Him and James last night, we were exasperated, needing inspiration. I threw this article up. I was like, "Is there anything here, guys?" And here we are. Welcome, Derek. You're the best, my friend. How are you tonight?
Yo, brother. What's going on? I wasn't sure which way you're going to go with it. I wasn't sure if you're going to go like the cosmic egg, primordial, sent to the earth direction, but I'm digging the giants direction instead. I love talking giants. I can go a million directions with the giant stuff. Sure. Where do you want to go?
Wherever you want, my friend. Whatever makes most sense to you. So you've heard what I said, you heard what James said, you heard what Elliot said. I especially love that Book of Enoch stuff.
Yeah.
What do you know regarding, of course, you brought up your idea was a Tartarus idea, but what about the Titans? What about giants? And if you want to bring in the cosmic egg, I think that probably makes a lot of sense as well. Wherever you want to go, my friend.
Yeah. Well, great call from Elliot and James and stuff. I'm glad the Book of Enoch was brought. I was going to bring that up. And the idea that, like, so I think there's levels to the giants. I think giants is a good parallel for like conspiracies in general. Like what like level on the elevator do you want to get off at? Like, do you want to get off at like the 8 foot to 10 foot tall giants? Because those are like, I think we'll like be learning about. I think my grandkids will be learning about those in history class and stuff. Like all of the Native American legends have like giants in it. Like the most famous Native American chief of the Algonquins around my region, Passaconaway, he was said to be like 8 feet tall and descendants of the giants. So a lot of them believed they were direct descendants of these giants. And a lot of the mounds in America, like along the Mississippi Valley, like the Mississippi, the Ohio River, up to like Marietta, the Ohio Giant Mounds and everything. There's like America especially has like a ton of giants, but there's giant bones and stuff. Like in my Night Stalker little trailer thing, I actually have a couple of pictures of like big giant skulls and possible giant bones. Like, so that whole like turn of the 1900s, like the late 1800s, when the Smithsonian were just going up and snatching up all these giant bones. Like how true that actually is or not, I don't know. If those pictures are real or not, I have no idea. But like, I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest that there was something that like around 10 feet tall, something really big, and like more recent, not the ones that were like wiped out by the flood, you know. Yeah, then we can crank it up a notch. Yeah, go ahead.
Interesting too. Yeah, just real fast. 8 to 10 foot giant, like I was telling James there, doesn't that sort of slot in Bigfoot into that conversation as well, right?
Exactly.
It totally does.
And I think Bigfoot, it definitely does. And like, I mean, 8 feet, there's like 8 feet tall people sometimes. Like the tallest person like ever or alive right now is like 7, I don't know, very, very, very tall, like 7'11" or something like that. 7'7" at least. Like NBA players are like 7'7", you know? Like there's the idea of us having some kind of giant gene in our not so distant past is not that hard to believe. Like Gigantopithecus and all that kind of stuff. There's the idea that there's a giant race of hominids at one point on this planet is not that hard to believe to me, you know? So then, but as far as Bigfoot, there's stories like the big time Nephilim people. I think they believe that like, I don't know the story by heart, but the idea that like, the fallen angels and stuff took wives with the daughters of man and had these beings, and then those beings had children with like animals and stuff, and then other women, and created like cyclopses and giant monsters and Bigfoot and cryptids of like the wilderness and stuff. It was when they made it with animals. So I think that if you're like a big time Nephilim person, I think you believe Bigfoot is a descendant of Nephilim, and it has like magical blood in it and stuff. It's not strictly just a primate. It has part of this like fallen angel connection to it, you know? But then crank it up a notch, we'd go to like 30 foot giants, which I think is definitely possible. Like Godzilla size, like dinosaur size. Like we know, or I don't know, dinosaurs is pretty iffy in the conspiracy community these days, but like the idea of dinosaurs and these giant skulls and stuff, perhaps the narrative around those is different, or just the idea that at one point on this planet, bigger things were roaming around, you know? So in Godzilla, like the new updated Godzilla Kong mythology, they call Godzilla and Kong titans, and all those giant beast titans. In that mythology, the world was like closer to it was at the dawn, at like the primordial ooze times. Like it was much more nuclear, and then as it started to become better for mammals, it got worse for them, like less nuclear. So they had to go inside the earth in order to like survive, basically. And then, so they go like a hollow earth direction, but essentially like that, like they make it seem like you have to go through this event horizon, basically. There's some metaphysical aspect to it where they're going into like another realm, you know? So that could be some type of Tartarus metaphor, where these giant beasts had to retreat inside the planet where the conditions might be better for them. Or if there is some type of like something weird, orderly, like this is a little bit of a tangent. When we get to the Hollow Earth stuff, I like the idea that there are like event horizons and frozen bridges and portals and stuff inside the Earth. That it doesn't need to strictly be a sun inside the planet and like giant, because I think there are giant caverns, so that stuff is true. But I think there's also could be like indistinguishable caves that just lead into other realms, you know? So these Godzilla-sized beasts roaming around. And then you get into like the mud fossil stuff, which I really love, and that's the idea that like the mountains and everything are giants that are like lying down. There's all those like if you go to like Mud Fossil University, and like here's all the pictures like like I don't know the names of them, but they just look like giants that are lying down. You know, like the silhouettes of giants and all. And so basically, like those will be like Book of Enoch giants. Like I've heard those described as being like the the 2,000 cubits, or like I've heard them as 3,000 arrows, or like L's, which is like 2.5 miles. It's like huge. And they have like giants that are like angels and stuff that are the size of planets. And there's these big celestial beings, these half mystical, half big giant humanoid things that once roamed the planet. And so all these mythologies, and then the Greek Tartarus mythology, all these mythologies kind of, I don't know if any of them have it exactly right for my liking, but they all kind of lead to the idea that there was a time where these giant beasts, like these Lovecraftian old ones type monsters, these giant things, had dominion over the planet, and they were cast out by like a younger pantheon or a newer pantheon, like, or a man in general. Like that time of magic was like they were cast out or trapped in Tartarus, trapped literally inside the earth in some mythologies, or trapped in like a metaphysical prison they're trying to bust out of, or like trapped in the dark dimension, trapped in the upside down, whatever, and they're trying to bust out, So it runs the gambit. Are we talking mountain-sized giants, regular 8-foot giants, 30-foot Godzilla-sized giants, like Lovecraftian old ones, Cthulhu-type giants? Like, it's, I don't know. Which rung of the elevator do you want to get off
Yeah,
that? Like, that was a lot, but
no, that's totally great. And so I was reading too that interestingly, the Norse giants in particular have a very similar story arc to the Titans, right? The story, the mythologies I know best are, of course, the Greek and the Romans. It's just what I actually read growing up, and so once you kind of like go a little wide of that, my details start to falter a little bit, but it's very similar in the sense that these again, they are primordial giants, and again, so strong and powerful and vicious even. And again, like I was saying when we began tonight, that it seems like they're always fighting. It's always war with these things, and they're always fighting for dominion of the realm, right? Meaning, again, in Olympus, the Olympians were fighting the Titans themselves, and eventually did banish the Titans, like you said, to Tartarus. But Tartarus, again, would be sub-Hades, right? That would be one of that would be the core of the earth, would it not? Whether, like you said, whether you want that to be a portal in the earth to some maybe different distant realm, or whether you think it's actually in the earth itself. There's a whole lot of pretty wild stuff here to really consider, but I don't know. Let's go with your favorite giant, because I like the idea of the 2,000 cubits or whatever, like this, like 3,000 cubits, whatever this is. Like, I mean, think about how big that is. That's like Mount Everest big, right? Like that's incredible right there. I mean, maybe not that big, but like, let's say it
is. That's the idea. Like the mud fossil. Like, I love the weirder the theory, the better. Like, I love the juicy theories. Like, I'm not necessarily going to believe them, but I just love hearing them. So I forget his name, Roger Spurrier or something like that. He's the guy who coined the mud fossil term, but he goes like a bridge too far a little bit. He thinks that like every rock that's not like magma, that's not from a volcano, is a piece of a giant, and like all of the mountains, like the ground that we're walking on, is just the giants petrified. They're just like fossils of these giant beasts. And like, I once had a conversation with him. This was like 6 years ago at this point, and he was like really making the rounds, like on all these esoteric groups online. And I posed like a question in one of the groups. You ever see those giant spheres, those like 8-foot spheres that are in Costa Rica and stuff? They found those stone spheres. You see those?
Yes. I can't remember what they're called, but I've seen them.
Yeah. So I was like, what are these? And I was getting into like platonic solids, and I was kind of going like what are they trying to like worship, like whatever. But he goes, no, these things are like these little ball joints, these little balls. We have like BB size little, like not microscopic, but very, very tiny little balls in our knees, in our kneecaps. And he says that's what these things are for the giants. So I said, in order for that to be true, these things would need to be miles and miles tall, like massively big, like bigger than mountains, for that to be true. Like, so how would that thing even exist? That's a comic book type stuff where you're seeing like Galactus standing on a planet. You can't survive. It wouldn't be, those things wouldn't be a natural thing. It would be like a Galactus. It would be like a celestial being in Marvel, some type of metaphysical thing, some type of god, some type of Lovecraftian old one, some type of thing from another realm, or some type of cosmic being that comes in, or like the Book of Enoch, these angel things. It's wild stuff. It's a wild stuff. So part of it I like, and there are so many pictures of mountains and different like that look like there are giants that are lying down. So that part of it is a very, very cool idea, but I don't know. It's easier for me to believe. So that's like, it makes the Godzilla-sized Titans even more plausible to me, you know?
Yeah, right.
Kaijus and stuff.
Real quick too. The crazy part about that is, so if we're to believe, even with, you know, like they say, right, the forgotten history of the past, and a lot of this stuff when we're talking about mythologies and folklore, and some of these stories that again echo not just from the east to the west, north and south, everywhere, the world over, right? Like a lot of these stories are very, very similar. Like I described, the Titans again. The land of the giants in the Norse mythology. Sorry, I can't remember what it's called. There's actually a name for it. I'll dig it out a little bit later. But so there's actually like a realm where they lived. But in this sense, right?
Oh, Normeander or like
it's something like that. Yeah,
Normie or something like that. I forget.
Yeah. I got it up on one of my 700 tabs I have open.
They have a ton of giants in Norse mythology, and they also have Titans, like the Gaia and the Sky are their Titans. And their whole, like the world is from a giant. We're comprised of just a giant, one massive giant, which kind of leads to the mud fossil theory, you know. But also the Greek mythology has the Titans, and like Kronos is often depicted as being absolutely massive, like the king of the Titans. And in every movie, he's basically this big magma monster, you know. But they aren't the giants, like they're the Titans. But there was also the War of the Giants in Greek mythology, which is just giant-sized beasts, just giant-sized people, you know. So, I mean, Game of Thrones has giants above the wall, and those are just like the big 20 to 30 foot things. Jack and the Beanstalk. This just seems to be a thread, and it gets really confusing because there are the older pantheons in nearly every mythology that were cast out, like the Titans were, and there's also giants that were running amok. Not usually like to the same prestige as the gods, but just were a problem for them that needed to be dealt with. But and all these things mixed with humans and created other big things, you know, big people. So that would create like the 8 foot to 10 foot giants, and the reason why all these indigenous tribes say they have giant blood in them is because maybe they do, you know. It could go a million different directions. I'll let somebody else call in. Maybe I'll call back later on in the show. But great cool stuff, Mike.
Yeah, you too. I appreciate it. Thanks again for inspiring this. You and James tag team, and I appreciate that. Just real quick before you go too. So it makes some sense. Like I was saying there, if you believe even with some of these ancient mythologies just a little bit, that if the giants, let's say, were actually banished to Tartarus, right? Tartarus would be, as we know, as far as we understand it, would be the center of the earth. It would be deeper than Hades, which would be a cave you could reach. At Tartarus, you can't get there. It's just not a place you can walk to because, of course, the center of the earth. So if they banish them, these Titans, to Tartarus, would it not make sense that maybe if they were as large as we're describing, that maybe these mountains sticking out of the earth are them? Exactly right. Just like you said, meaning from they've been banished to this center, but I don't know, maybe like their leg or their knee is like kind of sticking out. Causing, you know what I mean? But they're they're just jammed in there like you kind of tried to stuff them in a small garbage can or something.
I mean, that's the Marvel Celestials. It's that they're birthed inside planets, so that planets are these cosmic eggs for these celestial beings, and when they come out, they just crack the earth they crack these planets like an egg. So if you search celestial Eternals, you're going to see like an arm popping out of the ground that just looks like a giant mountain, and this looks exactly like a mud fossil. This is like from a movie from a year ago, but from Kirby mythology from the 70s and stuff. But yeah, I don't know, it's crazy stuff. And I mean, Tracy Twyman, I'm pretty sure, theorized that, or found some mythology that said the Titans were underneath the British Isles. That like the British Isles is the reason why it's so mystical. Like one of the roles of the Druids was to keep these monsters underneath, like locked in their metaphysical prison. Like I picture it more as more as something metaphysical, as like we couldn't beat these beasts by force. We can't drag them into any type of prisons. We had to use magic. We had to maybe make some deals with some things on the other side, whatever these ancient cults were and stuff, in order to force these things to a place that they're trying desperately to bust back into our reality, to take hold, to try to end the time of man. But as far as like, did giants exist, just as like a regular question? Yes, I definitely think so, and I think that like I think that like our grandkids might be learning about giant. They may be being shown giant bones at some point as like the regular curriculum. I don't think it's that hard to believe, honestly. But yeah, great stuff, Mike. Great show.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the inspiration. You're the best, brother. Again, Derek the Night Stalker. You can find his YouTube channel. Links in the description. He just got a
some giant bones in there too.
Yeah, there you go. Giant bones in his trailer. Go give him a follow on YouTube and let's inspire him to make more content. Always brilliant. I appreciate it very much, Derek. Have a great night.
Thank you, bro. Later.
Thanks, you too. There you go. Easy as that if you want to be part of the show. So this is what I'm talking about. The Jotnar, they're called, and the Jotun in Norse mythology. The frost giants is what I was looking at. And I found it interesting, too, that frost giants, ice giants. If you look up ice giants, by the way, you know what you get? You don't get a frost giant. You get the ice giants of the massive Neptune and these planets in the outer solar system. That's what an ice giant is in scientific terms. So it's interesting how there's sort of like a whole lot of correlation here to kind of what Night Stalker was saying, and how maybe this fits. Maybe the ice giants themselves are in space now. Who knows? So anyway, let's see. Jotnar, plural for Jotun, were the frost giants of Norse myth. We'll get into this and a little bit more of this tonight, but that's the question, right? So in so many ancient mythologies, again, like I said, I know it's old stories, right? It always fascinated me when I was young to understand that even though these stories were old, they were told by people and passed on by people, word of mouth. And again, we've talked about how beautiful and how powerful the storyteller can actually be, right? In regard to kind of passing these things on from generation to generation. And like we always say, the Dungeons and Dragons fans, the bard always wins, right? +1 to all stats. And not only that, if you guys have seen The Witcher, right? He's got that annoying bard that follows him around that's sort of chronicling his deeds and able to sing tales of him. And so anyway, just some interesting side notes to all of this. And well, as we finish this in the last segment here, or sorry, second to last segment on the radio, the question becomes this, as always, right? We're going to keep asking these questions because, like I said, I don't have these answers, and I'd like to know what you think. Again, we got some great stuff from the Book of Enoch tonight. We got some great stuff from James and Elliot and Derek, and the question becomes, what do you believe regarding, has there ever been giants alive on this earth? And whatever that means, if it's titans, if it's giants, if it's spirits of old, if it's some sort of thing, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If it's Nephilim, a biblical Nephilim, you tell me. How about if it's Anunnaki and the Igigi? You tell me. One more time, 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. More Tartarus, Titans of the Primordial Earth, your phone calls, and more Troubled Minds when we return. Be right back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we are streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, and Twitter, and we are broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. We're taking your phone calls tonight because we discussed the idea of giants. That's right, giants. Titans, giants, nature spirits, whatever. Something large and in charge from the old primordial days. Do you think somehow, some way, the giants actually existed? Cultures the world over
suggest maybe. And again, this is all about the maybe juice. I'm not saying ancient astronaut theorists say yes, but what I am saying is, what do you think? 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037, and we'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. And I don't know, there's a lot to this, a lot to the idea of Tartarus, the giants, the titans, and where all this stuff comes from. I think that's the best part is the more I kept digging, the more giants just kept popping up. And notably and interestingly, like Derek was saying, the call there in last segment, shout out to the Night Stalker, so much good stuff. Him and James both for inspiring the show and chipping in tonight and giving us amazing ideas to think about. The thing is this, right? If somehow, someway, these giants were banished to a Tartarus, or these titans, were banished to Tartarus, and it's unclear exactly what Tartarus is. And in some cases, people have described giants as being part of mountain ranges sticking out of the earth. All right, well, there are mountain ranges all over the solar system, including, of course, like I said, the correlation here means if you type into a search engine, ice giant, which is what I was looking for when I was actually meaning frost giant, the actual term actually is for Neptune and Uranus, the two planets, right? And so that's the scientific term for those two planets. So it makes me wonder, right? So what would be a Titan banished to Tartarus? Is it, again, using its huge body, again, 3,000 cubits big, according to the Book of Enoch? And again, Elliot, thanks for the amazing call. Is it possibly that these basically bodies of these giants banished to different planets to maybe sort of create the basis or the backbone for the planets? Pretty wild ideas, pretty wild thoughts here. Love to hear what you think. One more time, 702-957-1037 regarding giants, Tartarus, the primordial titans, whatever you got. Love to hear your thoughts. Let's go to Daryl in New York. Thanks for being patient. You're the best, Daryl. Welcome to Troubled Minds. How are you?
Hi, Michael. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear. Everything's perfect. Thank you, Daryl. Go right ahead. What is on your mind? What do you think about Tartarus, Titans, and giants?
I got to tell you, this is absolutely one of my favorite subjects. I am so fascinated by giants. I love this. I love the subject. I loved everything that everybody's discussed. What Derek had said, James has said. I've seen them in person. I have to tell you, I've seen a giant in the flesh in New York, leaning against a building as tall as a 4-story building. She had her elbows on the roof, and she had her legs crossed. And I don't know why I was calm when I saw her, but she must have done something. There's something mystical and magical about them. I think they can transcend dimensions, perhaps. Maybe there's something about Bigfoot that somehow disappears when, it gets spotted or gets blurry when a picture is taken. There's something very magical about them. And I've seen them in New York in silhouette in the river at night. And there were plenty of them. There were so many of them. And when I saw one in person, and I wasn't drunk or anything, it was in the middle of the day in the summer, I really saw one. And she didn't bite me or anything. She was just chilling, and so was I. I know that I just believe in them so much, and I don't think I was imagining her. I really don't. I had no reason to be imagining her. She just appeared.
Yeah, you've told that story before, actually, on this show, but what you saw was a projection, right? Almost like a spirit form, is how you described it, right?
Well, I thought it was first of all, I thought I was seeing things because I thought, it's going to go back into one dimension as soon as I walk by it, it just looks like that in the distance, but it's going to appear to be just rocks, just like the face of the building. But the more I got closer to it, the more vivid it had become. She was definitely flesh and blood in my perspective. She didn't become one-dimensional. She was totally three-dimensional. I'm not sure if I don't think I was even seeing a hologram. I really felt I was seeing, with her makeup running and her stockings were torn, and, the little costume she wore was so bizarre, and the wrong time of the year to be in a Halloween costume. I don't know. The whole experience was so, super surreal, perhaps is the word. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to tell anybody that would believe me without a picture, and I couldn't find a moment to take my phone out to take a picture because the moment would have been ruined. We had a real moment together. Where our eyes met. I mean, I definitely had eye contact, and I had so many thoughts of like protecting her and how I would hide her. And I figured she was hiding from something. I know she was. She was hiding from her people, perhaps. But going back into like the proof of their existence, I think if you look at the monoliths and the gigantic heads, like in Easter Island or in Mexico, or look at the gigantic like structures in Petra. Who was those built for? I mean, those are huge. The doorways to those cities were enormous. They weren't made for people our size. They were made for giants. All of those things were made for giants. The things that are like embedded in mountains that we couldn't even possibly have reached or built. They're just like there's no other way to explain their existence other than they were made for giants. Even the structures that were found under the ice in Antarctica that Linda Moulton Howe was discussing, those things were like 50 feet high. I mean, they were huge. You couldn't see the end of them. Even the way Area 51 was built, I think that there's proof that all right, maybe there's not proof, but there's rumors that they did live in caves. That why wouldn't they be in the center of the earth? If they are already cave dwellers to hide from humans, perhaps, maybe I'm just thinking they must have had huge brains, but what made us a little smarter than them? And how did we get rid of them? But the one that they killed in Afghanistan, there was a giant, and there weren't that. They were living among us not too long ago, according to all kinds of Indian folklore, in our country. Even we have photographs of some of them. There's pictures of these people. They're gigantic. In the late 18th century, 19th century. Well, the photographs are from the 19th century, I guess. But that how did we get rid of them? And it was very hard, apparently, to approach them because they had some sort of mystical powers. So we had to be smarter than them to get rid of them. We maybe using magic or using water. We had to flood them out or smoke them out, fire them out. Apparently, in America, we drowned them out. But I'm sure there's always survivors of any cataclysm. So, humans have survived throughout so many of them. Why wouldn't the giants have survived? And I agree with Derek about the mountains. They were that big that when they died, they couldn't even bury them. They just left them there. And then, the earth will take over pretty quickly over just about anything, including inorganic material. Why not organic material? That's why so many things do look like the giants, like the inverted caves and I'm not going to bring up, the body organs, but, there's so many things that look like people.
Daryl, were we about to go phallic up on this show tonight?
Inevitably, it always goes that way, right?
Okay. Hey, you don't have to confirm or deny. That's fine. All right. So your idea is that this is real. This has been a real thing, and it goes way back, right? This is not it's interesting too, like you said. So let's say biblical flood, they say is 12,000 years ago. It's by best estimates from archaeological accounts, anthropology, looking at civilizations, looking at the erosion patterns of these flood things, these flood channels and things that happen as a result, about 13,000 years ago, something like that, right? And sort of coincided with the last ice age, as the ice age kind of came in. So, which is kind of curious how those two things maybe sort of aren't compatible, but maybe they are. Who knows? But if it was magical in some sense, meaning that somebody pushed the flood button and the flood came, well, if that's the case, then that would be as described, right? In the biblical account is to wash those giants away, right, and sort of restart, sort of that reset button, the great reset of old, I guess you could say, right? Something like that. But I don't know. So even recently, and I think you're right.
in terms of like recent history, because again, human beings go back, the actual like DNA human being structure, they say back to, I don't know what, like even 240,000 years ago, Homo naledi and things like this we talked about a long time ago. It like modern human, like the term is ish, because we don't really know at what point the brain, that conscious brain and the clever, tool building genius brain clicked in. And I'm speaking for myself, not for the rest of humanity. There you go. My ego's back as big as the sun. No, I'm just kidding. But so the question becomes, right, at some point, is there, how far back did this go? Is it back to the Titans and Tartarus? You think there have been giants around forever, and we're just sort of like this new version of a cleansing of the world, sort of in that biblical form? Do you think that's actually possible?
I think to be honest, I really think we go back further than you say, and I think giants go back even further. And I think we've been living I think we lived side by side, not only with giants, but with dinosaurs and with Neanderthals and with monkeys, whatever. I think we've all been coexisting together somehow. And then, maybe our species got more smart. We thought we were smarter, or we were able to reproduce better. Maybe we were more sustainable. Perhaps. I don't know what our secret was, maybe the globalist. I don't know. We just figured out a way.
I was going to say, too, you said, well, I don't know what made us so smart to survive, and they didn't. I'm not so sure smart is it, because, they say when the dinosaurs went, the cockroaches survived, so I'm not sure it's about smart. It might be about lucky.
We forgot one small thing about that. That's true,
Yeah, rather be lucky than smart. That's for sure.
Cockroaches and mold, Come on.
Exactly. Exactly. Great stuff. We got APOC in the queue behind you. You're the best. Your final thought tonight, Daryl. Appreciate it very much.
I'm so glad you brought this stuff up. I totally believe in it. I believe in giants. I think they're still around. I think they have to be pretty smart. I just think they were pretty big, and it was just inconvenient to be that size eventually, and that in a minority at that size. They just weren't going to survive or thrive, and they had to get maybe they did go underground. I think they're still around. I really do. Just like we are. We've survived so many cataclysms, and there's people that are still here in spite of all odds. There's always going to be survivors. Why wouldn't the giants survive? I think, in spite of everything we try to do to eradicate them, we supposedly killed the last one in Afghanistan. I'm not so sure. And why do we have to kill them all? Maybe some of them aren't harmful.
That's actually,
I don't think.
Yeah, I was digging, and it's interesting and notable that there's a ton of stories back from like the 1830s, the 1850s, the 1880s, where they have like actual journal accounts of people encountering giants, and in some cases they are killed, skinned. The whole bit, right? Even to the point where as guns were developed and gunpowder and the rest of this, they'd come across a giant sort of unexpectedly, and they'd kill it. They'd put it down. They just put so many bullets into the thing that it would die. And the accounts were horrific in that it wasn't an animal. It was, right? It was reacting as a human being would react to being pummeled with old musket shots or whatever. It's crazy, so crazy. I got a bunch of that. If you guys are into that, all my links from the description. I found some of that stuff. It's nuts. Like, what do you believe? At some point, what do you believe? You're the best, Daryl. Thank you so much for the phone call. Thanks for listening. You're welcome to pop back in for the third hour. If you want to stay right there where you're at, you're welcome. Just mute up and stay right there. Okay.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks for doing this.
Pleasure's mine. Thank you. So Daryl here has a YouTube channel. Check it out. Link is in the description below. She sings in French and English, and has some lots of stuff about Morgellons and some other things. So do check it out. And there you go. Thank you so much for the phone call. We're still talking about this tonight. Becoming Tartarus, Titans of the Primordial Earth. Do you believe giants ever existed in any point in history? And if so, why? Why are they gone now? Why don't we have them now? I think that's the weird question, right? Let's go to APOC. APOC in Oklahoma. Are you there? Test 1 2. Are you there? Welcome to Troubled Minds. Hello.
Okay. I'm sorry, I can't hear anything while I'm still in the queue, so I missed the last part of Daryl's thing, and so if I overlap, please let me know.
No problem. Go right ahead. What are your thoughts? Again, becoming Tartarus, Titans of the Primordial Earth is what we're talking about. Do you think at any point ever in Earth's history there were giants? Biblical giants, again, in Norse mythology, Greek mythology, whatever. Again, Chinese mythology. No matter where you go, there's giants the world over. Think it's real or just a bunch of BS?
I think it's probably real. So if you go to Tartarus, you think about the center of the Earth or the inner Earth or whatever. And so you have the book, The Smoky God, which was presented as if it were correct and true, even though the story was supposedly passed on to the guy who actually published it by the person who had the event with his father where they went into the center of the earth via a miles wide hole in the ocean. And they met these giants, supposedly, who had high technology, and there were huge animals, huge fruit, huge trees, huge everything. And then they ended up passing through and going out the other side. I won't tell the whole story, but that's an interesting connection. But if you look at, current history and the Denisovians, about 35 years ago, a monk, I can't remember where, found a giant jawbone with huge human teeth. And they had discovered the Denisovians before that and thought that they were, I guess, 2/3 the size of humans. But now they did DNA testing on the Denisovian, on the jawbone, which ended up being Denisovian. And the jawbone is huge. And the teeth are huge, and they have since found many teeth that are like 3 sizes bigger than human teeth are now. And I think he found it in a cave, and in that cave, and in other caves, there were, I'll skip that part. There are so many stories about giants. There's a story that's pretty recently where a group of 20-somethings went out to visit a that town that's on fire because of the mines that they had to evacuate. Can't remember what the name of the town is. Recently,
California.
Yeah, recently. They used to actually go. Sorry. They used to go out there, those 20-somethings used to go out there just for fun. And the last time they went out there, they saw on a hillside a giant human being. And that was within the last 15 years or so, or 10 years. And if you really, listen to a lot of sighting reports and stuff of just weird stuff, you run across people saying, like Daryl did in the beginning of what she was saying, she saw a giant. There are a lot of people who say they have seen giants. But now the evidence is coming out, and in the mounds, you had the red-headed giants with 6 fingers, and they were only, I think between 8 and 12 feet tall. But the Indians apparently interacted with them, the Mississippians, you said it properly, and they were apparently regarded as royalty and buried as such anyway. But then the Smithsonian stories come in to where, the newspaper articles, which still exist, by the way, of the people who had found them, and the doctors who would check out the skeletons would say, well, let's call the Smithsonian. The Smithsonian would come out, pick them up, and they would disappear. So that was in our recent history. So yeah, there's enough evidence for me to say there's a high likelihood of giants, and of course the Sasquatch thing.
Yeah, that fits, doesn't it? It certainly fits. Like in the native tradition too. Again, Lovelock Cave in Nevada, we could talk a little bit about that as well. Where again, like you said, giant red-headed cannibals. And I'm not sure in that case if they had 6 fingers or not, because I don't think they actually found skeletal remains. But again, it's very much like sort of in the sense of like the Skinwalker, right? It's like you could have like the modern Skinwalker Ranch type stuff where it's like, well, it seems like this may be like a modern spin of like an old story, but you can't discount entirely the ancient stories in terms of, well, they say it's not just the Utes of back to Skinwalker real quick of the Uinta Basin. It's also the Navajo, right? Navajo Nation believes that the Skinwalker exists as well. It's ubiquitous again across the entire Southwest of. And so, once again, it's like, at what point are you like, how many Bigfoot stories do you have to see before you're like, yeah, maybe, right? At least maybe plus. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. We got like another minute and a half for you. We talking about your podcast yet, or is that not a thing?
I'll go ahead and do it. I'll go ahead and put it out there. Again, guys have 2 episodes. I'm still working on the property and still haven't, got much set up, but I do have what I call a portal page. I guess you're calling it a tree link.
Yeah,
page?
Link tree. It's all the same. It's just like kind of one spot that has all your links. Send that to me, please. Yeah. I've got it. I'll put it in the chat as well. So APOC here, a good friend of ours, good friend of mine, literally just starting to become part of the furniture around here, and I appreciate that very much. And I mean that in the best way. Is that she's got a podcast, and I've listened to it. She sent me the links for that, so I'll share them with you guys as well. It's called what's it called?
It's called Apocalypse Tao, Tao, and it is experimental, and I do want to get some interviews and some other stuff, but yeah, and more it's just sort of artistic and weird at the moment, and some of my thoughts and stuff like that. So I'm going to play with it and see what happens at some point.
I did listen to it. I listened to all of it that she's got there, and I'm a fan. And you know what's interesting, too? I was telling APOC about this as well, is that the cool thing about doing podcasts and doing sort of, again, your own radio show, you can make whatever you want. It's like, I think that's the best part about it. Like it's so boring to me to just find like the same stuff over and over again. When I find something that's different, I'm like, yes, this is what this medium is all about. It's about talking, and it's about sharing thoughts. But there's just because you're sharing thoughts doesn't mean it has to be like, let's do the UFO interview with the same 30 people everybody else does. It doesn't have to be that. And look, Troubled Minds is a perfect example of that. I never wanted it to be that. And APOC has a fantastic thing going on. So we'll get you the links for that. So please give her a follow. Thank you, APOC, for you're welcome to hang out as well. I got to just peel this off and get off the radio. So thanks for calling in. You're the best.
Okay.
Okay, just hang out. If you want to hang out, just mute up, and we'll do it. All right, so here's the thing, right? So this is what we're doing, guys. We are finished. As it goes a little something like this, right? The bad news is we're done. The good news is, God willing, we've got tomorrow. And if you're listening to us on the Fringe FM, stay tuned for Joe Roop Lighting the Void. If you're listening to us on any other platform, including the podcast feed, stay tuned for a 3rd hour of Troubled Minds. Be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our Troubled Minds to yours, have a great night. Okay. All right. Is anybody there? Hey, we're still doing this. As you know, the conversation continues. We do a couple hours on the radio, and it's our radio slot 7 to 9 p.m. After that, 3rd hour is basically for you. Literally, the only reason we do it is to take additional calls, to get your thoughts, to just be able to sort of peel off the idea of commercial breaks and just go.
and kind of do it more unstructured and just get as many of your ideas in as possible. So that's what we're going to continue doing. Still talking about this becoming Tartarus, Titans of the Primordial Earth. What about giants? What about any of this? So many ways to think about this. Again, mythology, again, modern times, the biblical flood, the Anunnaki we haven't even touched on yet. There's so many ideas here that sort of flex into the same sort of realm. So, as always, the question is, don't listen to me. What do you believe? 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break. We'll keep on trucking. Let's see. APOC's here and Daryl's here, and we're just kicking it. Looking to hear from you guys, and more thoughts on the way. Don't go anywhere. 2-minute break. More Trouble Minds coming up. Be right back. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we're streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, and Twitter, and we're taking your phone calls. We're still discussing this idea of giants. Not just giants, right? But what about this idea of primordial Tartarus? And we started with this article from, you got it, Science Alert. Primordial helium from billions of years ago seems to be leaking out of Earth's core. Now, what they're saying is that this is not any sort of terrestrial sort of helium. Helium-4 accounts for 99.99986% of all the helium on Earth. Well, helium-3 is the rest of the 0.000137, and it consists of 2 protons and 1 neutron. And they say it's from the helium of the Big Bang. It's not a terrestrial thing. It's not something that's created here on Earth. It's something that was trapped by the formation of the Earth itself in something known as what is this? It's called a solar nebula. Yeah, right? So they're saying that the exact same components of the sun that are literally sort of coalesced into the sun itself from all these gases floating out there, they ended up also creating the Earth itself. And now we have sort of scientists have discovered that this new element, it's not new, but it's rare. It's ultra rare on Earth anyway. And it's leaking out of the center of the Earth. And so, of course, right, you start there and you go, well, all right, well, what else is in the center of the Earth? And, of course, we got Hades, we got Tartarus, we got Titans, and we got, let's go to giants. So what are your thoughts regarding all the rest of that? Speaking of giants and how this is, do you think that, again, in biblical terms, we're talking about the Nephilim being giants? We talk about, again, back to the Norse mythology, there's it's called, sorry, we had it in the chat there. I can't remember because my Norse names are not really great because, like I said, I'm mostly a Greek Roman mythology guy for the most part. But all right, Fred, take it easy. Thanks for hanging out. So anyway, Joe, God, what's the name? Hold on, let me pull out the chat. We got a couple calls we'll go to in a sec, but we cut off APOC there for just a sec. So let's. I'll go back to APOC. You got more to add real quick? What we got you? No giant hurry, but I didn't want to cut you off unceremoniously from the radio. What else you got for us, my friend?
No pun intended. No giant hurry, huh?
No giant hurry. Hey, sometimes I do it. Sometimes I make phallic jokes unintentionally. See what I did?
Well, you. So you were just talking about the Norse mythology, and that's where the smoky god story came from. So it was Odin that they were looking for when they found the hole or the entrance into the inner Earth. By the way.
Okay, so meaning that there's a parallel here. That like this is almost not exactly the same story, but it's very, very similar. And it's not called it's not called Tartarus. Do you know what it's actually called? Where did they imprison them?
I don't know. And see, the imprisonment story doesn't actually come in the Norse mythology, I do not think. but I could be wrong about that. Somebody that's more read up on the Norse mythology could answer that. But it is interesting that the culture that they discovered was so high tech and advanced. They had electronic. What do you call it? What do they have at Disneyland with the tracks that are that they use magnetism to move trains with? Anyway,
yes,
they had that technology. They had floating or hovering cars and stuff like that. They had different technology that they couldn't quite understand. And they were giants. And I guess, one thing I did want to bring up that might connect a couple of things is biblically, if you look at the giants that preceded the giants during the flood, you look at the first quote unquote people living high up on the mountains, and they didn't eat food, and they didn't drink. They got the moisture and nutrition from the sun and the clouds that were on the mountain levels. So they actually lived like that, apparently, or according to certain stories. And it was the mountains that the Denisovian jaw was found on, a mountainous cave up there. And they're also saying that those Denisovians were genetically evolved to be able to live in high climate atmospheres. I don't know where they're getting that, but they said that in one of the articles. So they think that other Denisovians might have branched off from the giant ones. But in the story of the giants in the Bible, they, I guess, ended up coming down, and then they were eventually they evolved over hundreds of years. And then that's when the story of the flood of Noah came up. But there is a story related to that actually sends, the Nephilim, some of them into the center of the earth. And it does say in the Bible that the giants were in the earth in those days, not on the earth, but in the earth in those days, which is also interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of that too, and as always, right? It depends on the source. The Book of Enoch, and you got the canon Bible, you got the non-canon Bible, you got all kinds of stuff, right? These scenes. There's so many different, interesting sort of takes on all that stuff. But you're correct. I was reading some of this. As far as I can gather, I'm not the expert on this. By the way, I'm not an expert on anything. I'm more of a. I know 2 things about 10 million things, and that's kind of it. And so that's why we go wide and not deep. But in some cases, from what I was reading tonight before we got going, it seems like that a lot of this tracks, not just with again back to tying it all together with the different mythologies, but then also the biblical accounts. They're different. They're different. Some say that the flood wiped out the giants, and that was the reason for the flood. Some other accounts say that it was supposed to wipe them out and didn't. Ended up not happening because they were able to survive and then reprocreate after the fact, which again would account for modern giants, right? At least in biblical terms. So I don't know. Again, I don't have the answer. You know me. I'm not trying to profess any answers here. I'm just wondering if this is real or not. So great stuff. I appreciate it very much. So final thought here. You're welcome to stay. Like I said, we got a couple calls behind you, so we got to get to them. But so you're saying definitely maybe juice style?
I think I'm a little bit further up than the maybe juice. I think I might be like anchoring some of it in, not all of it, but some of it. Yeah, I just think it's fascinating, and I think that there is so much evidence of the giants being found, in the old newspapers and stuff like that, even recently. And then we have the Bigfoot, and then we have I don't even look at the Kandahar story because there are so many other stories in Iraq with giants and mountains, James. but yeah, I mean, I'm pretty latched in with the giant thing. Again, I only keep it at a percentage point. Like I'm at 78%. You know, that's where I'm at with the maybe juice.
78.23468%. All right, perfect. I'll take it. You're the best, APOC. I'm going to get those links and I'll share them in the chat. Can you please do that for me while I'm doing the rest of this, and I could help share them? If I have to go get it, everybody waits a little longer. I would appreciate that if you could help me with that one thing. So APOC here again has a podcast called Apocalypse Tau. Do check it out. We're going to get you links in a sec. It's just getting started. She's got a few episodes there, but as you can tell, she's brilliant, and she's got many more on the way that are going to be very interesting. So thanks for the call, APOC. Thanks for being you. Always a pleasure. Stay right there. All right, let's go. 702-957-1037. Becoming Tartarus, Titans of the Primordial Earth. Let's go to Joe in Florida. Welcome to Troubled Minds, my friend. Go right ahead.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Missed the beginning of the show. But if anybody's watched The Expanse in the first season, they're fighting with people from Mars, which used to be people from Earth. But over time, living on Mars, because the gravity was less, and your heart didn't have to pump as hard, people were larger or taller. So, I start looking at all these stories and mythologies, and I'm kind of thinking, if I would rather serve in hell, or I'd rather rule in hell than serve in heaven, I might want to get on a spaceship.
Wait, what? What the fuck did you just say, man?
Whether that is from Mars, or whether the moon, which we've talked about before, was a spaceship that could travel with generations of people. We know when the moon came to Earth, it settled down. The gravitational distortions of Earth, you can look that up. Apparently, we would have it stabilized the Earth, the water, the oceans, and all of that. So let's just say taller people came here. I don't actually think they were here from the beginning, but I think they came here. They come here, and maybe they start interbreeding. I'm just going to give you the quick version, I think. The helium, all of that. And they do start breeding with whatever's here, or they genetically modify it. We know that regular humans were shorter. I'm probably still one of them. But then humans got taller over time. They say that's because of nutrition and because of other things. You definitely cannot discount the evidence of bones and things that are found. Some of those things could be attributed to gigantism, which they say Goliath in the Bible had, which we know is a genetic anomaly. But there are bones out there that are like, whoa, really big. I do think that is true and found. Why is it found? If they were all over the Earth, I think they would have been found a lot more, just like dinosaurs were found. So whatever came here, I think, was limited. Maybe as an expedition. And at some point in time, for whatever reason, the expedition got called back. The reason why I say this is because while the Bible says one account, parts of the Bible also has Ezekiel in a spaceship. There's drawings in other parts of the world of spaceships landing. We can look at Ancient Aliens as a show, and we know there's evidence of that. So whatever came here, I definitely think, was taller than us. The other thing that I don't know if anybody mentioned, which I saw parts of it, was the movie Prometheus and the Builders. In that whole movie, you could look at conspiracies and things on that movie for hours. But that they supposedly built the Earth, they came here, we go looking for them, and those builders and Prometheus were very, very tall giants. So what were they trying to tell us? I don't know. But they came here, maybe to rule, maybe to dig gold, and that's why they created us. The Anunnaki, all of those things are probably, different words for the same thing. And at some point in time, maybe they got called back home, maybe there was rebellion, maybe there was anything, and a few of them stayed behind. And that's the evidence that we find. And maybe some of them are so big that we've mentioned it before, they're petrified into the side of a mountain. You know, some of those accounts go that they were 450 feet tall. If Daryl was saying, you know, what she saw, if something like that passed away, it would be petrified maybe. And maybe there's evidence of that, but we would never really know because it's petrified. Really neat topic, though, to think that there might have been giants rolling around here in what I would consider prehistory. Are they on the moon? Are they back on Mars? Who the heck knows? But it's fun to drink the baby juice on this one.
Oh yeah, I'm with you. So it's a good solid maybe. You want to give it a percentage?
You know, honestly, I'd say, you know, I would probably go with 60% percentage. So if we look at Goliath, you know, David and Goliath, not biblical account, if you even believe, like, well, the Old Testament, I think I have a more tendency to believe than some of the New Testament. That's a whole other argument. But I'd say 70%, I believe. How's that turned out to be? Well, maybe there was a lot of interbreeding back then, and there were more giants from the standpoint of genetic abnormalities. And maybe they were giant, but not that giant, if that makes sense. Okay, let's face it, if we were all like 4'8", 5 feet tall, and somebody was 7 feet tall, which we know is still realistic in this day and age, they would look like giants to us. And the interpretations from people would get lost. Let's face it, not everybody was educated. The kings may have been educated, people may have had scholars, but just like in today's society, not everybody was educated. But yeah, I would say 70% they were giants. What your term or definition of that giant is, whether they were 400 feet tall or 8 feet tall, you know, I think there's more evidence of ones that might be 8 feet tall or 12 feet tall. Whether that was aliens mixing, genetic abnormalities, a little bit of all of it. Okay? There's chupacabras that we say are running around. We've talked about Bigfoot. Who knows if those are like the experiments that got out and they're just kind of floating around. So, yeah, I just, that's what I'm thinking.
All right,
maybe
perfect.
70% because the bones, the Smithsonian's, you know, all those things that all the other callers are brought up. I believe it. They find them. I don't think they find them in large numbers, but they're there. And they're there enough to make you go, what did we find? So
things that make you go, absolutely. I'm sure you know the song.
So, the only, you know what I have giants in my place.
Is this a phallic joke?
That's not really a phallic joke. It could be a phallic joke, but Americans, I'm having a harder time fitting more Americans in a standard size urn. So we are getting bigger.
Oh, I see.
We're not taller, but we are getting bigger.
I see. Okay, all right. That makes sense. We need jumbo urns. For those of you that don't know, Joe is a funeral director in Florida, and that's why he's got inside information. Good guy to know, not just because he's a good guy, because he does something that most people don't realize is a thing. It's a thing. You're the best, Joe. You're the best, brother. Always a pleasure. You're welcome anytime. You already know this. You're Trouble Minds family. God bless you and your fam. Thanks for being part of this. Thanks for calling.
God bless you. Don't drop dead with the pizza in your bed, because if I have to come get you, I'm taking the pizza.
All right, there you go. Wait. If that's the case, pizza in bed. What's your favorite pizza, Joe? So at least we can make the guy picking us up happy.
Anything without pineapple.
Okay, all right, perfect. No pineapple. You got it. You got it, brother. Appreciate the call.
Or anchovies. Good night.
No anchovies. Nope. There you go. If you want to screw the funeral director, get in bed with an anchovy and a pineapple pizza, and try not to vomit on yourself. You're the best, bro.
All right, man. Good night. Bye.
You too, man. Thanks. There you go. Joe in Florida. Always a pleasure. Been listening and calling to the show for a long time. He's as a long time a caller just about as Kelly. Kelly's been around for such a long time. He's part of the family. Same thing as Joe. They were the first two to really just be kind of rifling into this and talking about this stuff. It was Kelly first, and then Joe was shortly thereafter. And these guys have been around since, and so very much appreciate them. And thank you for being part of this family and just part of the open-minded ideas of the maybe juice. The idea that maybe some of this shit is real. That's where the conversation lies. I'm not. This is not some sort of religion or cult or any of the rest of that, but it is the way it is. It's just let's talk, let's consider, let's think, and let's buy it or not. And I think that's the thing too. It's like so many people are like, if you challenge them, like if you called me right now and said, Mike, this is all bullshit, I don't think there's ever giants ever. Cool. Like, fine. Like this is not my narrative. I'm not trying to create something and convince you of anything. I want to hear what you think, and that's what it's an honest, open conversation. One more time, 702-957-1037. I see there, Kelly. We'll get to you shortly. Jennifer beat you in. She actually hung up and came back. We're going to go to Jennifer, and then hang tight, Kelly. We go right to you. Jennifer in Missouri, welcome to Troubled Minds. How are you tonight?
Hey. Yeah, my phone dropped out. So
I noticed. I was like, oh, we lost a caller.
My phone dropped out.
Oh. Yeah, but you're back.
No,
but you're back.
Just my connection.
Right on. Right on. But you're back. Okay, so
yeah, great calls all night tonight.
Yeah, I agree.
Great show all night.
Thank you. Good
That's
stuff. Very nice.
Again,
I
blame
James and Derek. Blame James and Derek.
The first thing I went in, what?
Blame James and Derek. But go ahead. I'll shut up.
Yes,
go ahead and
I saw what he was saying. No, don't shut up. No. Yeah, well, I saw it, and immediately, last night, I fell asleep, looking at, everything I could find about, because I was thinking about the periodic table, and I was like, I forgot a lot of that stuff. So I was, looking at the whole periodic table, and when it was discovered and everything, and researching it, thinking about it, And as far as the giants go, with the Norse mythology, it's the Jotun, and they're in Jotunheim. And so you have the giants were in the trolls and a lot of these abominables. They were in Jotunheim, which was one of the layers of the cake of Norse mythology. You had Asgard, and then you had Midgard, Niflheim, and Jotunheim. And so you have designated places for all these different beings, and they even had a place like you're talking about with these giants. I mean, at the end of it all, by the time Christianity had come around, every one of them was in hell. In the Galdebrock, you have Odin in hell, and you have many of the other beings were all in hell. And if you're thinking about Tartarus, I mean, it's a very close reference, but they're referring to the nether realm, to hell. But on another scope of it, thinking about giants, it's so difficult to peg it down because you have a lot of references to on another note, I've been very distracted because I came across a giant myself, actually. I came across this giant dog up the road, and I live out in the middle of nowhere, so I was like, what is this dog doing out here? And he was just laying by the mailbox. So I've been tending to that, so I was a little distracted. But anyway, okay. So if you're thinking about the giants themselves, when we talk about the men of renown, the men of old, that kind of conversation, it's hard to tell in some regards in the Bible if they're talking about I often think about the Neanderthals and I wondered if they're an ancient race of some kind, that was long-lived and had extraordinary abilities that we're not aware of, or there was something like that going on. Also with the layers of the cake, so to speak, I wondered if the Earth, if it was laid out different, if there was actually some kind of a magnetic shift or a polar shift that would have turned things and changed things, whether it was something that was going on, with a different planetary alignment, some type of different arrangement on a celestial level, that perhaps that changed everything and could have changed the atmosphere and the makeup of all of the elements and the oxygen in the air and such. And thereby, killing off a lot of these great creatures or strange beings and making it uninhabitable for them. Or they've moved to another arrangement, either inside the Earth or on another part of the Earth entirely. Am I still connected?
Sorry, I muted myself. Yes, I'm listening. I just muted so you don't hear me like drinking and chewing and shit.
Okay, I just want to make sure, 'cause my phone...
Yeah, we hear you.
Sure enough, yeah.
Yeah, we hear
I was
you.
just worried my phone, because my phone's really iffy. I was just making sure.
You're good, you're good, you're
I
good.
was like,
I'm
I
listening.
don't know, make sure.
Go right ahead.
But, back to where I was, let me think. So, I wondered if there was something to do with that, if you have some kind of cataclysmic event and everything changed and a lot of things died, or they went somewhere else. And a lot of times we think that they went inside of the earth. Now, there's a whole account about that, about the inner earth or like a passageway into another place on the earth itself, I think could also be an analogy for that, where you have a lot of talk about even the idea of Garden of Eden and hell being in the same location and possibly being in that location somehow. So that's a whole other thing too. But back with the giants, back with the helium. Okay, so I was looking at the elements and the way that they were discovered. And helium, as you know now, probably from looking into it, that it was fairly recent. I was really surprised to see how recent helium was discovered. And you have all these, like the Cavendish and all these scientists and alchemists doing all this research on the elements, trying to figure out the formula of the universe, basically. And, they're finding out that all these different gases in different states and the alchemy of it all, there's a lot of occultness to it. And I began thinking about the occult of the elements and what's going on with this? Because I was like, can you even tell the age of helium? How did they do that? I had no idea. But they can. And I thought that was really interesting when you think about the elementals themselves on that level of all the talk of the elemental world, that they're all, you have the air spirits, the earth spirits, the fire spirits, and the water spirits. And if you get down to the elemental table, it makes me think that if there's if there's more to it than it just being a gas, if there's something more about, as far as are they some type of being in themselves, and if they're coming out of the earth as a gas, as air, then I really wondered what these beings were. And in reference as far as it being, the giants thing though, that's very, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, it's wild though how you can kind of you can take a concept and then it sort of runs into all these other things. Yeah, I don't know that the idea of primordial helium to me is let's call it suspicious.
Isn't all helium primordial?
Yeah, I'm going to call it suspicious. Yeah. And again, I think Ronald over on Rockfin had one of the best questions tonight. He's like, so if you huff that primordial helium, do you still get the high voice? I want to know. Hey, maybe it's right. Better. Maybe you get the high voice and you get to visit the machine elves. Who the hell knows, right? I have no idea. But yeah, I don't know. Pretty wild stuff.
It's just amazing to imagine.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the minds of the people it's just amazing to imagine, that there are people being like, this is not just air, there's much more to this. And literally breaking it down, and you have air catching on fire, like some of these different gases, how when they're exposed to this or that, they catch on fire. It's magic with these elements and all these different things. And so there's got to be something to that, as far as I think there must be something to the idea of that there must be more there about the elements, and there might be something tying all of the magical aspects, the alchemical studies, the wizards, so to speak. There must be a tie-in. I haven't found it yet, but there must be some kind of tie-in about the elements, the elementals, that world itself. There must be, and I think it's a good idea that we keep searching, keep looking.
Yeah, 100%. You know what's interesting too? When I first saw that helium coming from the center of the earth, this type of thing, the primordial helium, whatever, the first thing I thought was exactly what you just said. I was like, this is elementals, right? Like in some term, right? It's alchemy at its most base. And then on top of that, we're talking about sort of, if you want to take it to the metaphysical, it could be nature spirits, and again, alchemy, nature spirits. Again, the immortality, this whole bit, right? That whole thing is so tied into each other. But then also,
Stone.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was looking for. Thank you. The Philosopher's Stone. Exactly. I couldn't see you're reading my mind, completing my sentences. And this is why we talk to each other. And this is exactly the way this types of stuff happens. Night Stalker was saying this too. He's like, it's crazy. The more time we spend around each other, the more time we talk like each other. We're completing each other's sentences. We know what each other are thinking. Is crazy. Yeah, Philosopher's Stone is the other one. And I think the craziest part about this is you can take this idea in so many different ways, and it is like alchemy. In this one sense, this could have been a show about alchemy in its entirety. But, I was like, let's do giants. We haven't done giants in a long time.
I wasn't sure where you were going. I had no idea.
Right? No, it's good. No, it's good.
And then you were like, Tartarus and the Giants, and I was like, oh, okay.
Okay. Even the folks that try and help put these shows together, which I appreciate very much. I like to surprise you a little bit and maybe put an interesting twist on it to make you go, oh, okay. But yeah, no, you're completely spot on with this, and we'll revisit this at some point in the future as well. Not just this, because they're going to learn more scientifically about this. And we're going to talk about it, as Elliot said, and as James said earlier as well. We'll just watch this stuff as it develops, as science learns more stuff. We'll talk about it. We'll speculate more. We'll drink more baby juice and keep on talking. So what do you think about the giants then? What do you got to give it? If you got to give it we're coining a phrase tonight. If you got to give it the APOC percentage, what do you think? Is it maybe juice, somewhere in between, coin flip, 100%. Or otherwise? 100%. Okay, all right. So you think
there
they did exist?
I don't know how that's working. I mean, it's possible that, if you look at if you ever seen any of the old kids movies, where you have like the Borrowers, or like what was that one? Gulliver's Travels. What makes? Perhaps if you're looking at an ant, you're a giant. So if you think about the perspective that they were like grasshoppers in their eyes in the Bible, and they're talking about that, they saw something that to themselves they felt like they were nothing. Like they were so giant, so powerful that they were nothing in their eyes, just like grasshoppers. And you have all these, every single folklore across the board talks about it. And in my opinion, when I look at that kind of stuff, it makes me think that there's absolutely, like, these are rational people. These were rational people in all these different times. And if they saw something like an enormous person, it does sound absurd, or ogre, or whatever. It does sound completely absurd to us now, 6,000, 8,000, 10,000 years later. But there's no telling what they had encountered. And so I don't like to make too much fun of these stories. And even though some of it could be, these weren't all just children's stories, so a lot of them are very serious accounts. And so I have to believe that to base an entire mythos, in some cases, religion, with them placed in there, they're there for a reason. And I would speculate that they just aren't here anymore, or they're somewhere else, and the world is much stranger than we thought. And that's all I can really think of it. And I guess so I do believe that giants did exist. I don't know if they still do, but I don't see why in this great, huge universe they couldn't be somewhere. It's very plausible, and we haven't seen much. Every human being just live so long, so there's only so many things you can find out.
And then
we have to trust the fact that over the... Yeah, go ahead.
Finish. Go ahead.
No, that's actually about it. It just seems like, it seems likely. I don't know where, and we don't see any, I don't know. I don't know where they could be. And we just don't know. We just don't know. There's so much we just don't know, and if we just knew everything, then we'd know, and that'd be nice. We could all relax.
But we don't, and so we have maybe juice instead.
Jennifer, always a fantastic call. Thanks for your take. Thanks for looking at the helium and all the rest of this alchemical ideas and interjecting into this conversation. Like I said, I thought about that and I was like, I try and tend to be too convoluted sometimes when I try and tell a tale, and when I do too much of that, it ends up just a mess. So thank you for if everybody kind of chips in something else.
I like where you went.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for the call.
Much better.
Thank you. Yeah. Jennifer here has a YouTube channel. Please scroll down. Night. Thanks, you too. Scroll down, links in the description. Always great stuff from Jennifer. Give her a follow on YouTube. She's got a channel where she talks about similar stuff. It's sort of maybe juice different, maybe juice Jennifer style. She talks about all kinds of things that I haven't considered yet, and we haven't even talked about yet. And you can tell great stuff as always. Look again, like I said, greater than the sum of its parts. It's incredible when you get all of us together and just talk about wild stuff. Still taking your phone calls. We're talking about this becoming Tartarus, titans of the primordial earth. Have giants ever existed? And we started with this idea of primordial helium from billions of years ago seems to be leaking out of Earth's core. And what they say is it's a different type of helium, right? Helium-4 is 99.99986% of the helium on Earth, and that's the stuff that makes you have the high voice when you suck it out of the balloon. And this other helium is helium-3, and they say it's mostly primordial, and it makes it super rare here, and it's a different element entirely, meaning that let's see, what is it? Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I already said that, and I'm not going to bore you. It's different. It's leaking out of the core of the Earth, meaning that the entire Earth itself was created in the same cloud, the solar nebula, as the sun itself, our sun. And they didn't expect that. They thought it was something complete. They thought the sun was created and then the planets and the rest. But it seems like it's different than that. But anyway, so then we took it to giants. Why not? And so Tartarus, giants, titans. Do you think giants ever existed on this Earth? Because, well, that's how maybe juice works. 702-957-1037. Thanks for being patient. Kelly in Colorado. Go right ahead. Welcome to Troubled Minds. How are you tonight?
Good evening. How you guys doing?
Fantastic. How about you, my friend? Go right ahead. I'm sure you got some ideas. We've talked about giants before. You and I have done Kelly and I did an episode probably a couple years back now. It's been a while about forbidden archaeology. So Kelly here knows a thing or two. What are your thoughts, my friend?
Well, first off, beginning, I would say I'd give it about you don't even need maybe juice for this one. This one's real. That's what my belief is. Because there's too much evidence worldwide, and I'd like to go over that because I'm going to kind of regurgitate what some of these other people, like Jennifer and the Night Stalker went over. But because it's interesting that all these cultures, not everybody. How is it that they're all talking about the same thing? These giant people, right? So, and I agree with the Night Stalker with the different sizes as well. I seen that video. What he was talking about where these giants were. I think the measurement was as a shekel, and it was like 4,000 shekels or 5,000 shekels, which is it's like 2.5 miles or whatever. And these mountains that they said when they died, there was no burying them, he's saying that. And there's many places people call them the Lady of the Mountains or stuff like that. But yeah, that was a pretty interesting too. I mean, they have even rocks that look like skulls. I don't know, man. There's some pretty interesting evidence, that goes along with the whole giant thing. We can all even go with weaponry. There's some giant swords from Japan, these giant battle axes that were found in I think in the northern mountains, and then in Egypt, they have these giant. I think it was some kind of a weapon like arrow or spears, but yeah, man, and you would have to be a giant person to wield these instruments. You're not going to be some small guy, or they're going to just make it for a decoration. I'm pretty sure that these things were being used, and they tell you, and the one from in Japan and the sword, they'll tell you exactly who was made for it and stuff too. But the whole ceremonial thing, some people would try to believe, and push that theory that they were just a ceremonial, but it'd be just a waste of material, especially something like with the Japanese and their sword making. That wouldn't be just for for fakies, you know what I mean, just sitting there on the wall for nothing. And that thing it's a massive sword as well. But yeah, man. So I don't know. What would you consider a giant? You know, like 10 feet above. You know, some people would call 7, 8 feet. You know, they're giant size. You know, and giant stature. But I don't know, man. For me, I would say closer to 10 feet, or you know, and something like that. In the feet wise. Excuse me. But you know. So let's go to the United States, where a lot of places were, like Derek was saying, you know, a lot of places that were in. You can find a lot of this. The evidence that's found in the old articles, these news articles that they had. You know, you can find them all over too. If you would do a simple Google search, you can find some of those. I mean, the old, and you know, like the first time that Europeans first landed on this. In this continent and over here, man, in this nation, they were finding evidence of all that stuff. You know, they have tales of the Native Americans, like the Plains Indians. You know, they were talking about their women would get captured by these. You know, they would get stolen by these giants. You know, and they would have they would get impregnated, but when they would have the babies, none of the ladies would survive. You know, they would die because the babies were so huge. You know, and you know they became the offsprings of these stuff. And that's, you know, you can go all the way to biblical times, you know, about all that. But some of the states were here in the United States, you'll find it was like, well, obviously in your state, you know, in Loveland, the Loveland Caves. There's Catalina Island over in California, obviously all through the whole Ohio Valley, which includes Pennsylvania, Virginia, down through Tennessee, Montana, South and upper Dakotas, even into Canada area. There's all these, you know, they had these mounds, what they call them, these mounds, right? And
spirit mounds, right? Spirit mounds, that's what they're called. Yeah. They would have some of these mounds, and a lot of these people when they got here too, you know, the Europeans, they would destroy these mounds looking for they would think gold or, you know, or even the bones, you know, they would make you know, like, but a lot of, you know, so they would even sell it on the market or whatever, you know, and something new, they would send it back over to Europe, you know, and they would pay high price for that stuff. But yeah, man, all through those areas. So it's you know, and some things that were found here too is what they call them dolmens, right? There are actually these markings. I believe dolmens are actually like headstones. You know, they're like markings of where some of these giant bones were found. You know, and you know, obviously back then, you know, they called the Smithsonian. You know, and there's all that story that they, you know, destroyed all these bones. But again, you can go and see these photographs, you know, that were in these old news clippings and see the size of these things, you know. There's the famous one that was kind of like leaning up against the size of a rail truck, you know, or, you know, a railroad car. And I think that was in Ireland where they found that one. And but no one knows where all these bodies or anything were found. But nowadays, you know, archaeology, you know, some of this stuff, hopefully they try to, you know, I would like to get into that field, and you know, I mean, if I was to run into something, and man, I would try to keep that as wraps. But then at one time, just an explosion where the evidence would, you know, they couldn't hide it. You know, you need to have something like that. Yeah, and people that are kind of unafraid to dig into that stuff. Speaking of which, interesting you say that. I've got a friend of mine. I actually asked him long time ago to be the co-host of the show before Frank, and he's like, "Nah, you're right." Like they kind of, you know, he's like, "Art Bell, I love him." Nah. I'm just like, "Hey man, that's vision, right?" And if you're out there, I love you, buddy. He listens often, and he asked me, "Hey, I'm gonna write a book." He lives up in northern Nevada, within driving distance of Lovelock Cave, and he's gonna do he's gonna go deep dive into exactly that, the redheaded giants, Lovelock Cave. He's like, "Hey, if I write a book, could I come on the show?" I'm like, "You could come on the show anytime, with or without the book." Yeah, for sure, 100%. So he's working on something where he's kind of doing some of that deep dive research into exactly that. And like you said, you know, people need to be looking into this stuff, because is it look, I'm willing to say I was fooled, right, and say this or that is fake, right? But again, that's not what Maybe Juice is about. It's like, hey, look, this is a thing because it came about because of this or this reason or whatever. And again, I hate anonymous sources and I hate all the rest of that shit, right? And so the only way to really get to the bottom of it is for people to spend a ton of time on one thing and really dig. and you can find out, oh, well, this original source came from here. There was hearsay from this point. There was a native tradition here. You know what I mean? Like if you dig, you can find, let's say, close to the answers, as close as we can know. You know me, I don't think there's answers anymore anyway. I think that the truth is a slippery fish, like I always say. But in some cases, right, like you can discount some bullshit, right? And so I think, again, like that's not me. I'm, again, shout out to I think it's Dilly's out there. What's his name? Hold on. Let me get this right. Not Dillard's. Hold on. Somebody said wide, not deep. That's me. Right? That's what I've always been. It's like if I spend too much time on one thing, I get so fucking bored, I got to rage quit and go do something else, Not really ADD, but just... I hate that generalist philosophy, or sorry, the specialist philosophy, and that everything has to be sort of siloed, right? Like, okay, that's great. Like, there's a place for that, and those investigations are important. But also, in some cases, if you spend, let's say 15 years of your life and become an expert in one exact thing, you're also missing a fuck ton of other things, aren't you? That's how I see it. That's how I see it anyway.
There's so much evidence out there to just have a naysay, especially something like this. Well, this type of subject anyway. That's why I wanted to kind of get like some of the if we go into history, right, and then we go even into deep history, right? So even going into religions, a lot of religions talk about this, whether it be the Christian Bible or the Hebrew Bible, right? Or so they're always talking about they like Goliath. That was one. King Og. He was the size. He was probably like, they're all cubics, right? And, they were talking about the size of his bed. King Og was like, 14 cubics or some shit like that. It's probably, I think, 11 feet or some shit. So, yeah, I mean, Bibles, the Philistines, you had, the Nephilim, obviously that was the one, that everybody knows that story, like the Nephilim and stuff, if you've been down there, but there's also, and then you hear someone talked about earlier about the Book of Enoch, right? But there's another one, the Epic of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh was a giant. He was very big, and they thought that was kind of they found the clay tablets for that one. And before they found even the city, and he was ruled over Uruk, right? And they unburied the city of Uruk. So I don't know if these things are, they claim in mythology, they just seem to keep popping up. Where these things are coming true, right? Even paintings in Egypt, right? Ancient Egypt, they have a lot of these things where they look like giants carrying the blocks where they got questions of how these stones were moved. Well, in Egypt, on the walls, they show these giants, or these people make a necklace for these giant women and they would show them, put them on. It's not, and some of they call those pants, inside those pantheons, they're like, or like, they call it like a kingship thing, I don't know if that's what happened there.
No, is my phone line dying? You're good. Don't worry, everything's fine. Just dialing it back up. Keep on trying. Pretend it like it never happened, Kelly.
Well, they try to say it was like a kingship thing, that they would make them taller than everybody. But a lot of that evidence, you'll see a lot of that stuff too, where they even look like they were making the what do they call them? Those big giant pillars and shit, right? They're kind of standing them up. So, I mean, you can keep going.
The obelisk.
Yeah.
Hey, how do we somehow... We're talking about giants and titans tonight, and like every single, I don't know, every 20, 25 minutes or so, we get back to the phallic jokes. With Kelly brings up the obelisks. Sorry, go ahead. I had to do it.
So they have pictures of them too, right? Or even like, okay, so for me... The reason why you probably say, people say like giant, evidence of giant bones, like something like 30 feet, it's kind of like what Derek was saying. So, and there's measurements of some of this stuff. These people I don't know if they want to believe, and that one story that I think Jennifer was talking about, and it is the one where it's in the Bibles when Moses sent out his 12 spies, when they left the exodus of Egypt, right? And they sent out the spies. And when the spies came back after 40 days, they had all this fruit and, said, yeah, it was fruitful, but there were giants in the land, and that they were like, like she was saying, they're saying that we were like grasshoppers in their eyes. That's pretty small, that'd be like a giant person, at least 30 feet tall, at least, something that huge. Imagining something that, but if this is a theory I would have if that's the case, man, maybe they were not, they left this planet, even could be, they're from another planet. But if you're that big, it's kind of like the dinosaurs, something like that. Maybe they were, they lived long, and they didn't die on this planet, because you also have like in the, I'll go in even through the, back to the Bible, you have like Methuselah, he was 100, when he died, he was like supposedly 969. Adam was 930. Seth was 912. Endos was 905. Canaan was 910, and Jared was 962 years of age. But then you can even go back to the Sumerian king list, and even those kings that were there, they were just their reign. It doesn't tell you that it was, that's how long they lived. That's how long they reigned. And even Gilgamesh was 126 years if you, talk about his reign, but his age, it was seen to be, I think it was like 450 years old. But even, so if we're saying that these brothers, even on the Sumerian king list, they reigned for like 200,000 years, these people would have to be, I don't know. That's my belief that if they were that big, maybe they were living that long, they had a long lifespan or something,
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the thing. I definitely, for sure, 100% in my mind, there's too many accounts to dismiss it outright, as everything is just bullshit mythology. And again, right, like we have like literally these like art done in ancient times that rivals what we do now, right? Like arguably, I mean, they were sculpting marble. And so it's like, hold on. So are you telling me that they could sculpt the human person perfectly in marble, right? With like almost no tool marks on these fucking things. And I'm not saying it's aliens, okay? Don't make me go there. But what I am saying is, but any other account they have of anything else is like, oh no, they were full of shit. It's like, wait, so you're saying what they saw isn't what they saw, or it is, and it was just stories, or it's just stories. I don't know, right? Like at some point when you have like these correlations all over the whole damn world, at some point you have to be able to say maybe. And I'm willing to say maybe 100%. We got a couple calls right behind you. You want to give me 2 more minutes of your finish Kelly idea here, and I'm going to go hit the men's room and join you back in just a minute. You okay with that?
Thanks, just real quick too. It'll probably finish this up for you, and then you can hit the new callers. But yeah, I'll keep going.
Okay, give me like a minute and a half, whatever. I'm going to let the dog out, hit the restroom. I'll be right back. I got you on speakers. I'm listening to every word. Okay, be right back.
All right. So, not only that, so if we go back to the, something outrageous, right? So, kind of not too much off track, but like with the, and I'm not trying to bash any kind of religion, but we just go to, the old King James version, right? They also talk about, they talk about different creatures inside, inside that book. So that's why I read it as well, because, you'll find like zombies in Isaiah 28 and satyrs, which is in Isaiah 34, wizards in Leviticus, 20, witches in Exodus 28, cockatrice, if you know what those are in Isaiah 11, demons in James 20, unicorns in Isaiah 34, talking donkey in Numbers 22, and dragons in Revelations 12. So these things are like, I don't know, man. It's kind of like what someone else said too, man. It could be something, this planet was pretty magical at one time. Maybe these things were all real, because people call them mythologies, but yet they're shared. These stories are shared, throughout, like I said, all over the place, and what's interesting is when I was stationed over in Maryland, right? This is me and Michelle. There was these. It was in this antique store, and this guy acquired like weird objects too. And one of them was the story about this 2-headed giant. It's called the Cat Dua, right? And so he had it in this thing, but it was in Baltimore, so we lived in Maryland. So we took a couple-hour trip, and we went up there. Just wanted to go see. We collect antiques as well, but I wanted to see this 2-headed giant, see what it looked like for in my own eyes.
Yeah.
But when I got there,
I'm back. I remember you telling me the story, but go ahead. Just to let you know I'm back.
Yeah. When I got there, man, it looks pretty convincing. The only thing they did do, though, to it, they want to kind of have it made it look like teeth, so they kind of like drew some of these things. I don't know why they put it in there, but they should have just left it alone. But, you know, it looks like paper teeth. They kind of like, you know, give it some kind of a scary look or something. But, man, it is a two-headed giant, and it's got like tight skin, like it's, you know, mummified or something, like it's dried up. And this thing, I laid down on the ground, and, you know, Michelle was taking pictures of it, and this thing had to be at least probably twice my size, you know, probably about 12 feet. And it was giant, man. It's in this glass, looks like a glass sarcophagus, you know, that display thing, but it's inside that. You can't even touch it. So it's pretty interesting, man. I don't know, man. You know, some people like would call it gigantism or whatever. I just think that's just a fake name they kind of want to make up. For me, it's a DNA trace of these markers of these giants. That's where you kind of get into the whole 6 fingers, 6 toes, 2 rows of teeth. You know, you'll find that in some people, like that's also, you find traces of that worldwide, you know. A lot of that found in South America, where these tribes, all of them have 6 fingers and 6 toes on each foot, you know. They also, as well as double rows of teeth. And again, that's found out all over the place. So, I don't know, man. And when these people die, you know, the whole river system, wherever they go, here's another belief that got a part of the maybe juice. That, you know, like if you go back to these ancient, like the Vikings, right, or the or like, you know, Egypt and stuff, the Norse mythology, you know, they use these when they die. They send them to Valhalla, right, and they send them on these boats, right, or even they get buried with boats. You know, they're talking about sending their bodies on a boat, and that's what they usually do. You know, set them on fire and send them down the river. Maybe a lot of these river systems, they go into cave systems and maybe into hollow earth. Man, who never knows? You know. That, because even, you know, the stories of what's his name that went around, Admiral Byrd. He went inside, but that's a whole different story too. He said those were giant people. So I don't know, man. I still believe that they're still around. You know, that they're still among us. They're just in the mountainous areas. There's some places here. That's why I say negative when they try to say, you know, science or whatever the social medias now. They try to say that this planet is overpopulated. I say a big negative, man, because there's places on this planet. I've been to a lot of places, and there's some places that I know humans haven't touched yet.
Yeah,
and if
exactly.
They have, maybe once or twice, you know?
Yeah, so remote, exactly. Like what? Like probably 75% of Canada is like uninhabited. It's like remote as fuck. It's like, oh, by the way, like hi Canada, it sucks because it's fucking freezing up there. That's why nobody lives there. Sorry, Kelly, you're the best, and you're right, man. There's a lot of weird shit out there, and that's why we do this. You know, longtime friend of the show, longtime friend of mine. You're the best, brother. Thanks for listening. You're welcome to stay right there. Tell Michelle I said hi. Thanks, brother.
All right, brother. Have a good one.
You too. Great stuff as always. I see you there, Tam Bam. I'm not sure who was neck and neck. We're going to go to Danny first because she's new blood. I'm gonna extend my one. Tam Bam is waking up in the morning. Give you time to get some coffee. And 2, thanks for being patient with me. Let's go to Danny in what state are you in again? Danny, welcome to Troubled Minds.
Thanks, Kentucky.
Danny in Kentucky, go right ahead. What do you think? Becoming Tartarus, Titans, Primordial Earth, Giants. You think this is all horse shit, or where are we at tonight?
Everything's horse shit, but
okay.
I think the Giants are a definite for me.
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
And have you ever heard of an octo base? Ever seen one of those?
No.
A massive upright base. It's like, look up a picture of it. They're ginormous. And there's no way that a regular sized person could just play one of those. I mean, you kind of can, you know. But what I find interesting about it, outside of it, how just huge the thing is, it makes sounds and frequencies that we can't even hear. And so that doesn't make sense either. Like, why would we create an instrument that we can barely play and can't hear the full range of, right? And I've listened to most of the show tonight, and I had like all kinds of arguments and confirmations for all kinds of stuff. But yeah, that's insane. And the giant axes, the giant guns, the huge books. And one thing earlier, someone was talking about the architecture being obviously made for much larger people. If you look at some of the older buildings across the United States where the doorways, that's one big thing. If you're in the community of people that discuss this frequently, but the doors are so huge, massive doors. And you can look at the stairs. This is the part I like. You can look at the staircases leading up to those doors. And yeah, isn't that huge? It's like it's like a toddler on the naughty chair, standing up on a stool to brush his teeth or something.
I was about to say, you said, isn't that huge? And I was totally about to say, isn't that what she said? And then you said toddler on a chair. And I was whoa, I can't say that now.
No, sorry. I ruined it.
No, you're totally ruined. No, it's okay. I'm trying. Hey, we're talking about giants tonight. You got to work in as many phallic jokes as possible. No, I've never seen that. That's wild. That thing is huge.
Yeah. There's one in Arizona, I think, in a music instrument museum, and there's one in Paris, on display somewhere, and Vienna, I think, has one. I'm not sure how many there are, but come on, who needs that? But the stairs thing, though.
Exactly. Who needs
I
that?
guess if you have a lot of money, it's I want one. I don't need it. I don't know what it is, but I want it. Maybe then you need one. But I mean, you can look at the massive stairs leading up to these big doors on like the Capitol building place type things, and there will be huge stairs, but smaller stairs have been kind of set into them, kind of retrofitted. Sometimes it looks like they weren't maybe original. So. Or maybe they were, and maybe the buildings were built at a time where large and small people were, side by side. And that's something that's really interesting to me, too, is a lot of the stories about giants, they make them to be these big, terrifying, vicious things. And I wonder sometimes if that's to make us just fear them instead of looking into maybe they were people that were civilized, Not saying that there weren't some big, scary ones. And the Noah thing too. That's interesting to me.
Which part?
About how he was pure in his generations. I'm not sure I don't remember the exact term. I guess there's a lot of Bible versions. Years,
all that shit.
No, that he was genetically pure. And it's right. It's in context. It's right around the part where it says that there were giants in the earth in those days and after. But when Noah and his people were getting on the boat. They were pure in their generations, but they went and got themselves wives before they got on the boat. And their wives would not have been pure in their generations. They just went and got them some wives. So if giants, or, on a smaller scale, were still being born from humans, I think that's a very possible way that would have been. I'm losing my mouth here.
That's all right. You got me. It's okay. Yeah. All right.
It's a plausible method instead of them just having to survive.
So with this whole idea though, giants and the whole thing, the whole scope. So you are drinking the maybe juice. You're like, yeah, hey, you know what? This. There seems to be enough compelling evidence to at least say maybe or even probably is what you're getting at, right?
Yeah, and there's even more, the mud fossil thing. Not just that some of them externally look like giants that died and laid down, but some of and when the phallic thing got brought up earlier for the first time, I was kind of disappointed because some of them look like vajayjays. And you can go.
Hey! Wait! Stop! If you got giant phalluses, you gotta have giant vajayjays, or how does anything get done? How does anything get done? For sure.
I mean, it only makes sense.
Yeah, it only makes sense. 100%. And there you go. So there you go. That's why we open it up to all. I appreciate you saying that. Those
are opening to caves that when you go inside of it, you can see that it's a birth canal. It's actually anatomically correct and everything.
I've seen some of that, and yeah, exactly. I think you're right, and it gets again, it's us boys and our peens. Well, we like to talk about.
You're always going to go to the PP first, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, that's just the way it is. And well, some things that patriarchy or some other shit like that. I don't know. I don't know. Map it however you want to map it. That's not what this is about tonight. But again, I'm glad you brought it up because that stuff is all accurate and true as well. To be honest, though, if I was the guy and I was always talking about giant vajayjays, it wouldn't fly. It's so super wouldn't fly.
I can see people getting a little cringed out by that.
Okay, just making sure. All right. So what else you got? So definitely we're drinking the maybe juice here. What other ideas do you have regarding this whole idea of Titans, Tartarus, giants, etc.?
Way too many, but I just did. There is a cohesive, mythology around the whole world. It's the same story, just said in a different language, really. And you could owe that to Babel being, everyone being moved away from each other, speaking a different language, or if you don't want to put that part in there at all, I think it's very obvious if you look even just on Google Earth, not that they're going to show us things properly, but you can see on architecture that there was one same sort of like society that was thriving and amazing and everywhere. And we would have had, different languages, but the stories are all the same. And I think a lot of information is hidden about like physics and just like the realm that we live in is hidden in those stories if you read them with that kind of eye, but I did want to say I liked when you brought up the ice giants, like the planets. I hadn't really put those two things together before. So that's awesome.
Hey, once in a while, I'll say something nobody's ever heard of. And look, it's not anything novel. It's just if you say enough fucking things, people will be like, oh, I've never heard of that before. That's the way it works. I appreciate that you appreciate it. Always a pleasure, Danny. What else you got for us?
I think I'm going to get some water now, and that's all I got today. That's all I have to say about that.
You're the best. Thanks for being part of this. It is Smurfer Girl in the chat. People are asking, hey, I know her. Is that? Yes, it is. It is Smurfer Girl. And thank you, Danny in Kentucky. I appreciate it. You're welcome anytime. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you. I will certainly come back.
Right on.
Bye.
Great takes as always. There you go. 702-957-1037. Becoming Tartarus, Titans of the Primordial Earth. Are giants real or not? Tam Bam, thank you so much for being patient. I brought the new blood in first. Tam Bam, you're always in my heart. What's on your mind tonight? Are you still there?
I am. Hi.
Hello. Good evening. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you? Do you get that coffee flowing? You still drinking caffeine, or have you cut that out?
Are you fucking mad? People will die if I don't have coffee.
Exactly. Same here. Hey! If I wake up, if I don't have anything, it's coffee. I mean, I have to have before anything. Say I can't even speak. Like me thinking of waking up and not having coffee first. I'm with you. You and me would murder the world. It's not happening. Yeah. All right. Good morning.
Doesn't equate.
Right. Exactly. So what do you got? What do you got regarding giants and the Titans and the rest of the shit? You think we're full of crap, or what's going on with this?
No. I don't think anyone is full of crap. There's too much ancient documents and accounts and things like that. I put a lot of pictures in the show chat of news articles, and because not recently, I'd say about a month ago, I looked at a giant Chinese man, and I thought, well, the fuck, that's odd. So
that's odd. that's really odd. Yao Ming. Yao Ming is the only giant Chinese man I know, and he played in the NBA. But anyway, go ahead. I digress.
Well, apparently he wasn't the only one. There were millions, not millions. That's a stupid fucking thing to say. There were a lot of them back in the day. This is a documented thing. And, if you go and look at the ancient Chinese text, which I can't upload because the file is too big, they have accounts of these giant people and that look like them. They also have accounts in these ancient texts of white tribes, not white colonizers, but actual white tribes, Caucasians. So, that got me thinking, like, the Chinese history goes back 6,000 years. That's longer than Christian history. That's longer than a lot of history, where it's actually physically documented in different accounts, and not specialized accounts. These are different people from all over China who have had all these different accounts. So my question is, what made them short? Like shorter than the average person. And Jennifer, obviously blowing everybody's mind, when you change the structure of what the chemical compound of what you're breathing, that could definitely change your chemical structure of your internal body, right?
Yeah. So, actually, she was on the chat a couple of days ago, and we were talking about that as well. In terms of like, she was talking about like different chemical composition of what you're breathing in terms of like people like at higher altitude. And the first thing that came to my mind was like, clearly your lung capacity and ability to operate at those levels, you're going to be completely different physiologically in the end. And the end of ends, right? And so I don't know if that's like us sea level folk that we go up to the mountain and you jog for like 10 yards, you're like gasping for air, right? It's the opposite. If you're used to low air and you come down, then you're like you're like a Olympian swimmer, like you got this huge lung capacity and you're just like sucking in air like it's like, oh shit, you guys are all a bunch of wimps, Again, it's not just about how adaptable humans are, but also like the physiology and like the elements that surround us make us sort of what we are. But yeah, fantastic point. Just want to interject that, but yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I could run. I mean, I go for a jog, more like a fast walk up here away from the ocean. But as soon as I go down to the vacation home in Neisner, I'm like a fucking marathon runner. Yee, jeepers. I never knew I could run until I get to the coast, So that makes sense. So I think giants were one of the biggest cover-ups. And because we're so indoctrinated, and school plays such a big part in this, and I will forever say this, we do not know true history. We will never know true history. So even 50 years from now, the history books will change again, and not to ancient history, to recent history. We'll never know.
Yeah, 1984.
Right.
Again, the history we live in now has been mightily redacted to make us believe a certain thing, right? And you're like, Mike, really? Seriously? Yeah, go look what's happening. It's being digitized. It's being put on Wikipedia. This is 1984. This is exactly what's happening. If you look up one thing today and you look up the same thing 5 years from now, the definitions will change. And not only that, it changes based on the politics of the time. And so they'll change the definition digitally, and then that will follow the print. And then, of course, right, then, memory hole and welcome to 1984. Whatever the fuck they want you to believe. This shit is happening for sure. 100%. 100%. Look, if anybody out there disbelieves me and wants to say, no, Mike, you're full of shit, let's talk. Because no, I disagree. Wholeheartedly, they're literally changing definition of things right before our eyes to make us believe things that are 2 + 2 = 5. Because that's what they want. They want us to be confused. They want us to, again, hate each other for our differences instead of realize we have more things in common than those differences. It literally is plain as day to me. Like everything I see, I'm like, and this is why, look, this is why I'm not perfect. Okay, I'm not perfect, obviously and clearly. But this is why I try very, very, very hard to not bring that same bullshit divisiveness into this space, into these conversations. Because I think in some of those cases, the divisive stuff, there are compelling things that need to be said, in my opinion. But also, it's so polarized in those spaces that I don't think adding even like a smidge of sanity will help. So let's just talk about other things, you know? Let's talk about other things. Like let that like bullshit culture war play out wherever the fuck it's playing, and we'll just pretend it's not happening, and we'll just be here in our own thing. We'll just talk about giants and Tartarus and Titans. Go ahead, Tam. Thanks for being with me.
Oh, that was a lot of information.
Hey,
cool.
Sometimes I can go.
I dig it. You know, I love your brain. You know that. This is why I think, we really have to stop. One of the things which I actually hate is that people put this very bad stigma on hoarders. But let me tell you, hoarders, especially elderly hoarders, are like little time capsules. They have collected shit that, like you said, on the internet, it's different. But in physical touching of a newspaper clip that they had about, 70 years ago, I mean, that's mind-blowing. People need to pay attention of what the narrative is. Anyway, so I think, here we are. Bigfoot and Yetis. They are hairy, giant creatures, in the forest and wherever they are. I personally believe that they are protectors of inner caverns, and they are guarding caves into which mythical creatures live. Just like Kelly said. Kelly even said in the Bible, there is mention of unicorns, there's giants, there's all sorts of mythical, magical creatures. And because humans have overpopulated or populated the earth in such massive numbers, they've gone inwards, right? They're hiding out. They don't want to be tested on, or whatever the case is. And here are Yetis and Bigfoots who are to us giants and are protecting these creatures from inside. Not only to protect them, but also to preserve their ecosystem in terms of what they're breathing chemically and different food that they need and a different chemical compound to stay the purest they can possibly be. So you cannot discount and this is a very, very big point, you cannot discount hundreds, if not thousands, of documents and ancient texts that giants were real. You cannot discount it.
Yeah. So you know what the archaeologists say about this? They say that they were finding Triceratops bones and I don't know, whatever fucking dinosaur you can think of. I can't think of any dinosaurs right now, but. Yeah. But like they say they were finding these dinosaurs and they were pulling out the dinosaur bones and pulling them out of the ground and saying, wow, what the fuck big ass bone could that be? That must be a cyclops, right? That's what the archaeologists have said. And so they're like, no. There's no, right? But also, right, like so in both cases, right, we found a lot of dinosaurs. But we also haven't found a lot of giants. So, right, it's kind of in that, well, what's really going on here? Like in my mind, right? Like I said, I don't want to close the door on anything. And so I'm just saying that, like, I agree with you. There's, again, anthropology, archaeology, we're working with 0.1% of the data because the rest is buried underwater. It's underground in places we'll never get to. Volcanism has gobbled it up and lava flows. And I mean, there's a ton of shit that, like, we'll never be able to touch. And so we are kind of dealing with just a very incredibly small sample size regarding the entire, whatever, the globe, the earth, or whatever you want to call it. And so I think in those cases, well, here we are. And that's why we have these conversations, because what's really going on? You
make such an excellent point. We are dealing with 1%, even less than 1% of data. So even if you find one giant man skull, or not skull, giant bones, right? Mm-hmm. There has to be some kind of validity there. If it's buried underground and an archaeologist finds it, fucking it does not like put there, and it's not like it's not this thing that it's a cover up, number one, and number two, if there's one, there's many.
Yeah, you would expect, exactly.
We just have to...
Exactly. So, and I think that's part of it. It's like, just because you found a few doesn't mean that's the only few. It's not like a rare phenomenon. It's like, no, you just ain't found the shit yet. It's
Exactly.
there's probably a hell of a lot more. Yeah. I think that's absolutely
so when people say it's bullshit, I promise you now, it is not bullshit. Go and do your research. When you have done as much research as Kelly and Jennifer and Mike and I and whoever else dives headfirst into this stuff, and then you come with your opinion and saying it's bullshit, we'll throw you with a lot of information and documents and things. But when you have that information and you've done the research and you still can't find anything, then I'll take your opinion. But until that time, do the fucking research. Don't come to me and tell me it's bullshit.
Yeah, at least, at the very least, just be open to understanding that
open-minded.
History as we know it, and basically, okay, archaeology is one thing because they're pulling things out of the ground and they're dusting them off and they're trying to to figure out what the fuck they are and read words on them and stuff. But anthropology is it's kind of narrative building, right? And so it's kind of storytelling based on this limited data. So it's and clearly, at least in those terms, not to shit on all anthropology in general, but I kind of am, but I'm also kind of not, because as they get more information, they're willing to change and adapt. But it moves so fucking slow. It just moves so slow, and I think it is because of the data, because we just don't have the data that's necessary to give us a full picture. And I think that's as us, as being part of the Troubled Minds crew and part of just people that are like, nah, like something doesn't seem right here. That's the way I see it. And by the way, that friend of mine too, if you're out there, hey, if you're listening, buddy, I love you, man. You know who you are, and I love you to death. I've known this guy forever, and he's going to be on the show at some point. And he spent time digging, like as an archaeologist, digging in North America. Like he spent years digging with archaeological teams in North America. And guess who he agrees with? Me. He's like.
I want to dig into his brain.
Yeah, he's a brilliant dude. He'll be on the show at some point, and we'll be able to talk to the guy. But that's the thing. He told me that he's like, dude, all the shit they say, they're just making stories. I'm like, yeah, it seems like it, doesn't it? It seems like it. I mean, like, you have to have a reasonable story to put in a history book. You're not going to put, the fucking aliens and the spaceship came and they built the pyramids. And I'm not saying all that happened. I'm saying that, like, you're not going to put that in a history book. That's what I'm saying. You're not putting it in a history book. Yeah. No, you're just not. You're just not, right? Because it means you can't control anything. You can't control a conversation by saying, well, the fucking aliens came and they built the pyramids. That's all I'm saying.
But like, imagine like people find out that like the whole entire world, find out that aliens and stuff were real, and the part they played in history, if they did, or whatever the case is. Imagine all of it comes to fruition, right? And the whole planet knows how senseless we would all, or fucking stupid we'll all feel posting about how our food looks on Facebook.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. It disgusts me now.
Anyway.
Like, hey, look, can you imagine? Look, I would have the largest photo roll ever if I posted every beer I ever drank. I should start doing that. The 10 million bottles of beer on the wall, 10 million bottles of beer. Take one down, snap the selfie, 9,900,990. Fuck. Nobody cares, people. Please stop posting your fucking food on the Facebook or on the internet.
But my point is, people would actually have conversations. Go back to conversating, and their brains would open up and things would become more real and less of this internet selfie situation, which some of us have to delve into to actually make a career. But it would all fall away. And that's the magical thing, I think, of it. But but they won't let us, because they want to distract us with all this shit. They want us to be self-absorbed and segregated and all those things. But,
the technology and then like the news cycles. It's like sometimes my wife and I will just be like, no TV today. like no, and we don't turn it on. We don't turn it on. We don't fucking turn it on. Like I watch it because I want to see. Again, I watch both Fox and CNN, several different individuals, their shows, because I want to see what they're saying. Again, I'm not like sitting there eating popcorn, like hanging on every word. I want to see what the narrative is, right? I want to see what
the amount of bullshit they can come up with,
what they want us to believe. And some days it's just like, fuck, like, nope. And she's like, nope. So we'll just put on like some meditation music on the TV and then just let it play. Like,
yeah.
Yes.
I wanted to actually tell you. That's hilarious. I want to tell you, I saw a video of this guy, and it's like, it's really like a 20-second clip, and I cannot find it for the life of me. But this guy was walking and trudging through the forest, and obviously he was taking a video of the surroundings because it was extremely beautiful, and he literally saw a dinosaur run past, like far away. Like it wasn't close to him, but he saw a dinosaur run past. With the tail and the head, I think it looked more like a what are those little things on Jurassic World that he trains? And the one is called Blue.
Oh, the Velociraptors.
Yeah. Yes. So he saw one of the Velociraptors run past, and it got me thinking. Okay, and his reaction was very pure. It was very true. Like he got the biggest fright of his life. And he started running away. And that kind of made me believe that it was a true encounter. And it gets you thinking, like, if they find all these dinosaur things and they find like a smidgen of DNA, the scientists, obviously going completely against the Geneva Code, are going to make a creature, right?
Yeah. By the way, LOL on the Geneva Code, right? It's like these dumb fucking rules are like, oh, by the way, we'll kill each other, but we won't kill each other in these particular ways. Fuck you. Like, okay, that makes a ton of sense. Meanwhile, like that type of shit is like being broken all the fucking time. I mean,
we'll only clone sheep.
Yeah, exactly. Go back to the Human Z episode. How do we go from cloning sheep to cloning pigs and putting their organs, their pig human hybrid organs into people? That guy passed away, by the way. They had the pig human heart they put in that guy. He passed away. But so we go from sheep to pigs without ever having a hybrid chimpanzee. Of course not. That's the most absurd thing I've ever heard in my life. They just don't. It's too much. It's controlling the narrative. It's controlling the things that they know will make us go, what the fuck are we doing here? Right? That's what's going on. Yeah. Tam Bam, you're the best. We got you gonna hang out? I got more time tonight because I'm going nowhere. I got nothing else to do. I got some extra work after, but whatever. So I'm just kicking it. This is like a Friday night, even though it's not. So we got more people to get to. They're still in the chat. Hang out a bit.
Sure.
Great shit as always from you. Tam Bam has Instagram links below. Tam Bam, get me a link tree and get me all your links, and we'll just put one link in there, and everybody can go follow you.
But it's so
everywhere.
stupid. I don't know. I don't want to because it's really so stupid. It's really what we hate, and that is me being a social media influencer and making a career from it. So it's why it's got nothing to do.
No, because you're just not some douchey Kardashian. You're here, and people are fans of the things you say and the things you think, and they want to go follow you. It's not that. It's different. It's completely different, right? Look, hey,
it's hypocritical.
No, it's not. Hey, it's hypocritical for me to be like, hey, I got a Patreon, I got this, I got that. But fuck, I also have bills to pay and I have to feed myself. You know what I mean? So it's like, I spent a fuck ton of time doing this, and so do you with me. It's not. Give me a link tree. We'll share it. And again, if people want to follow, they'll follow. If they don't, they don't. right? Like you give them the option. Nobody's twisting anybody's arm. You're here with us as often as you can be, telling us amazing things, and it's a good thing. Please do. Okay, I will replace it. Tam Bam's got an Instagram link in the description. But here's the thing: me personally, I don't use Instagram. So like, if somebody was like, "Here's Tam Bam's Instagram," and you want to follow her, I don't use it, so I wouldn't be able to. So if you're on several social media platforms, then it'll help because
but it's a good thing because you're going to eye roll so hard at me. Like, bitch, what are you doing?
What are you talking about? If they found you here, how are they going to eye roll at you? It's gonna help you there because you'll be like, whatever you're doing elsewhere is like, no, Tam Bam's got it going. 100%. Don't worry. Send me the thing. Please do the thing. I got your back. Hey, look. And by the way, if we get trolled and they come at us here, I've got you. I don't give a fuck.
Thanks.
Scorched earth. Look, you trolls out there. Again, go ahead and make as many accounts as you want. I can ban as many accounts as you make. All right? Don't fuck with Tam Bam. Don't fuck with anybody who calls into the show. Don't fuck with anybody in this chat. If you come in here as some sort of troll or you call me and try and troll me, done. I'll talk to you if you disagree with me, and we'll have a conversation. But if you try and first off, I'm the target, come at me, and that's okay, because I can handle myself. For instance, if Tam Bam takes off and doesn't listen to the show for 3 days, and you're just blasting her for 3 days, no. One time is what you get, and you're fucking banned. That's it. This is not what this is about. We don't do this here, right? This is not the rest of the world. The rest of the world is bullshit. And us here, and if you're listening, are trying to bring back an ounce of sanity and say, hey, look, we can talk and we can agree and we can disagree, but we don't have to unperson people and dehumanize them to attack them. No. Nope. Not happening. 100%.
Please, Mike, like, I feel super safe right now. And, like, what's that thing? Blood isn't always family. I love you guys.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Seriously.
Stay right there. We'll get back to you if we got time. If you got time, you're the best.
Thanks,
I'm telling you, don't fuck with anybody here because I don't play.
Yeah.
Fuck around and find out. Literally, fuck around and find out. If you have legit criticisms of me, 702-957-1037, and I'll talk to you. All right? And I'll even give you the chance. Right?
Yes, you're the best.
I don't hide. I will not hide. I'm not scared of you, of your fucking bullshit and your propaganda. I'm not scared. Because I know how much of what you think and say, the haters, is bullshit and propaganda. I know what rhetoric is, and I know what lies are. Try me. I'm just saying, I don't fuck around. Fuck around and find out. 702-957-1037. Let's get back to our fine folks in the chat. Thanks, Tam Bam. You're the best. Give her a follow.
You're the best.
Links in the description. Oh, I know. Oh, I know.
Good.
My ego yesterday was a fucking mess. Today, it's back the size of the sun. Let's go to who hasn't spoken in the longest. Daryl in New York. Are you there? You still with us? Okay, maybe not. APOC in Oklahoma. Are you with us?
Yeah.
Oh, we got a Daryl and we got an APOC. Why don't you guys do the thing and I'll just shut my mouth? APOC.
Well, actually, I was going to tell you, you have. I'm so sorry, I forget his name, but VALDEVIL in the
Kelly.
Yeah, Kelly's in there.
No. He did the thing, and then Danny did the thing, and then Tam Bam did the thing, and so we're getting back to Daryl and back to you. So no, you two are
okay. I'm giving.
Hey,
I'm giving it to Daryl.
Okay.
For a minute.
I had some.
But I do have.
Go ahead. You go first. I have to go.
I was just going to say. You want me to go first, Daryl? Because I was going to give it to you. I was just going to say. I do have something to say, but I'd like you to go first. So I'm being quiet, right?
To say, but I forgot what it was, so I'm going to go back through my notes to find out what it was. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So I do have one maybe juice thing for you on hydrogen. So hydrogen is an element, and then we have the platonic solids, which are connected to the elements So I think there are 6 to 8 platonic solids, and then if you duplicate those platonic solids, which are shapes, you get the other elements. And if you reduce the platonic solids to cymatics, which is the pattern and shape of frequency, when you have cymatics or frequency involved, then you get sacred geometry, which is what the platonic solids actually are. And if you have sacred geometry, you have magic. So there's your magic connection, Michael.
Yeah, back to alchemy. Again, this spins off into an entire other alchemical conversation. That not only that, again, like Danny said, bringing up that whatever that giant ass fucking violin was, right? Like alchemy and audio. I mean, there's this shit just spins off into so many things. Yeah, for sure.
Well, if it's all frequency, then everything connects, and if everything connects and it's all frequency, then yes, of course you have these instruments that, and she was right, that instrument can make sounds that we can't really detect with our ears, and just like the UV and IR in the color spectrum vibrate at different frequencies that we can't detect either. Just like, the energetic frequencies, then you start getting into quantum physics. But if you look at alchemy and alchemical processes, and then you start looking at ancient magic, it gets very deeply into sacred geometry and very deeply into the flower of life and then the tree of life. And then the magic of construction and creating material from non-material. And then you go into Gurdjieff, who was actually, he wrote a lot about, shapes and forms, and you move your body in a particular way. And he got into the sacred geometry, and then the meditations and creation based in that. And I met his great-grandnephew, by the way, his Gurdjieff's great-grandnephew, which was really interesting, in San Francisco. But yeah, I mean, you go into all of that stuff, and you have some really interesting deep dives, which I now have to go down some rabbit holes because I found some interesting stuff about helium and quantum gravity theory. I posted some in the chat, but now I'm going to have to dive into that and see what that's all about. So
now you've done it. This is all remember, blame James and blame Derek. This is all their damn fault.
I know.
That's all their damn fault. APOC, you're the best. APOC in Oklahoma, she's got a podcast. I'm going to link it back in the chat in just a sec. Thank you very much. Let's go back to Daryl. Daryl, what's up? You got it figured out?
I don't want to follow that. Actually, I don't know if I want.
Come on! Don't you have a
Daryl?
What's the you got an obelisk joke for us, don't you? Come on, Daryl! Come on, Daryl! Come on!
Probably do. So pigs and walk into a bar. No.
Shit. Okay, don't finish that. Don't finish that.
I have a Bigfoot joke. I do have a Bigfoot joke. Let's say a Bigfoot and a giant were going fishing. And they both were drinking a lot of beer, and they both had to take a leak. So they start to go to the bathroom over the bridge, right? So Bigfoot says to the giant, "Boy, this water is cold." And the giant goes, "Yeah, and it's deep too."
See, now we're not only did you pull a Bigfoot joke out of your back pocket, you also pulled an obelisk joke.
That's right.
There we go. See, hey, sometimes you just need a good joke. You just need a good joke. Uh-huh. And like I said, look, if you get tired of dick jokes, I don't know you anymore. I just don't know you anymore. Fuck around and find out. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Thank you very much, Daryl.
I want to bring up something.
Sure,
how did the giants, like this bothers me. the giants were so big, how did they mate with humans? I mean, come on.
Exactly. That's back to Danny. What Danny said. Hey, there's giant vajayjays too. They gotta be, right? They gotta be.
I don't know how much we can accommodate. We can make a baby come out, but
right, exactly.
I don't know. Exactly. I don't know. But then again, the Irish guys, I hate to say this, but sometimes they're not proportionate. You know what I'm saying? They might have not.
Yeah.
Right. What a pity, right? They might have been very underendowed, perhaps.
Yeah, who knows? There's that too. Everybody wants to talk about how big the phalluses are, but nobody wants to talk about how small they are, and that's why the whole thing's funny, right? It's like that's why it's like nobody wants to talk about how perpendicular like vajayjays are, or horizontal. Nobody wants to talk about that because it's less funny, right? But hey, if you can talk about like the size, well, it's different.
Let's think about it. You don't see a lot of, they made giant heads on Easter Island. There's those giant heads in Mexico. You don't see other giant things. They just I don't know, like the Sphinx. Just saying. Maybe they weren't.
You're gonna love this. What's up, Algo Rhythm in the chat? Everybody give Algo a follow. Algo, just like it sounds, ALGO space Rhythm RHYTHM, like you're dancing. He says, giants with little peens. Is that how this happened?
Oh, listen, those redheaded ones. I'm sorry. I've dated quite a few, people from the north. Let's say especially the Irish.
Okay, wait. But also, before you make the statement, let's say that consult your doctor before you change your diet, because this is not financial advice. Go right ahead.
Just saying. Wonderful people, wonderful lovers. I'm not going to knock them. But, not proportionate. Just saying. Not important to me. Not important. Very unimportant. It's what's between your ears that's what counts,
Thank God. Thank God for that. No, I'm just saying. Let's just say Michael Strange is not 14 inches. Because, that would be painful. I'm just saying.
But anyway, how did they make these little people? Come on, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Did they break them open? Did they kill them? Was it a one-time deal? Was it rape? Was it consensual? Was it a date? Did they make, what I'm saying?
Did giant...
How many centimeters is 14 inches?
Oh God! Hold on, I got you a translation. It's far too big. It's like giant size. Hold on, I got you.
Is it like murderous?
It's murderous. It's yeah. Here you go. I got you.
So it started off as consensual, ended up as
yeah, totally. 14 inches is 35 centimeters, 35 and a half centimeters.
Oh, wow, that's a ruler.
yeah, right. Like in the old days, they used to smack your knuckles with a ruler. They say in school. Well, well, there you go. There you go. All right. As we devolve into penis jokes and into the twilight, let's wrap this up.
Is that how they discipline dwarfs?
Sorry, say again?
Never mind. That's awful.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Was that a hot for teacher joke? I hope not. Okay, all right. So let's Daryl, finish this up, and then we'll go back to Kelly, and let's wrap this.
I'm just going to go back to the other thing, that they were so big. I think they built the pyramids. I have a theory, at least. I think that would pretty much solve the question of how did they carry those big boulders and, put those pyramids together. If they were that big, especially if they were gigantic, like, the biblical stuff and the Book of the Enoch stuff, and they were the size of mountains, I don't think that building a pyramid would be like Tinker Toys, it would be like Lego. That's a possibility. That's all.
Yeah,
just saying.
Hey, it's all possible. I'll take it's all possible. That's for sure. Ronald wants to put out into the ether here. I was once arrested for indecent exposure. They let me go for lack of evidence. These guys got jokes over on Rockpin. All right. See, we got fucking jokes. I got fucking jokes. All right. The bad news is we're about to finish. The good news is, God willing, we got tomorrow. Kelly, what else you got for us, my friend? If you're still there. This is the part where it gets awkward because I have no idea I'm going to call on him because I've been sitting there for 45 minutes. That's okay. Well, what's up, Kelly? What else you got, brother?
None. Just what's kind of weird, even though you're bringing up the phallus jokes, is there's a lot of cultures that, that even they worship the phallus.
Yeah.
Right. And one in particular would be the Hindus, right? The whole what do they call it? They pour milk over the top of it. Oh man, now I just lost it.
Wait, well, you pour milk over? Wait, hold on. You want me to buy you some time?
Call it that's what it's called, a lingam, right? And people say that it's supposed to be represent Shiva's, Lord Shiva's phallus, right? But the interesting part about the whole thing is the very first representation of a lingam is when their god, that's why they think it's a representation of it, is it shows Shiva coming out of it. So it looks like a spaceship that was kind of shaped like I don't know, like a tube, right? And it's opening up, or it could have been a portal, I don't know. But if it's a shape like that, like it's coming out of the sky, because that's how they say they all come out of it, right? But anyway, he's walking out of it, so it's weird, man. It's the first representation of it. It's him coming out of that what's it called again? The lingams, yeah. But that's interesting. Just I want to throw that in there.
Yeah, you know what's hilarious about that too? There's like the Jeff Bezos and the penis rockets. There's like the obelisks. I think literally, like, stop me if I'm out of line, guys. I think at some point in the future, do we have a show on April 1st? Maybe we do. Oh, Friday. No, it's Friday. I was gonna say maybe we do a show on penises, on the phallus, right? The phallus worship or something, just for the lulz, right? I don't know. Anyway, the timing doesn't line up. If I'm out of line, let me know in the chat and let me know in the comments or whatever, and send me an email. But I don't know. I think there's actually something to exactly like you're describing, that the obelisk and the rest of this stuff, and in the most base sense, it's like. Many people would say, patriarchy and all the fucking penis and all this rest of it. But I think it's more nuanced quite a bit than that. So I don't know. Like, I think it's probably a little base, let's say. But I think that also in esoteric terms and sort of kind of going back to ancient civilizations and whatnot, I think it's probably, let's say, a little more highbrow than CNN reporting on Donald Trump's penis size. How about that? How about that? What do you think, Kelly?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to say, you have to invite Rohan if you're going to do that.
Fucking right. Goddamn right. It was his idea. He's fucking beaming it into me from somewhere. Fuck you, Rohan. Where are you at? He's all meditating somewhere. Think Mike needs to do a phallus show, and I'm like, this is all Rohan's fault.
Did you hear about the dumb giant that got a penis transplant?
No, nope. I'm about to though.
The dumb giant that got a penis transplant. His left hand rejected it.
Oh.
Oh.
Burn. See? That's what I'm saying, right? This is what happens, and this is what I'm telling you guys. And you guys know, you already know. If you're here, you understand. We have more in common than our differences. And we can laugh and we can make fun of ourselves, and fuck's sakes. Hey, let's get the fuck out of here. Who else has anything before we finish? I think we kind of got back to everybody. Tam Bam, what you got before we roll the hell out of here? We'll hit APOC on the way out, and then, yeah, right? If you're not laughing, you're not human. What the fuck's going on here?
Oh, stop.
So can I say something real quick about the what he was saying about the Indian culture, and it might fix one of Daryl's ideas about giants and humans
Okay, but yes, of course. But then I want you to also address Algo's idea of giants with tiny peens. But go ahead. What are your thoughts?
Well, that I can't say anything about, but they do have statues in the Hindu and Indian culture of women who have had cesarean sections. They also have pictures of egg and sperm on the ceilings. So it could have been, artificial insemination, and then they couldn't birth them, so they had to cut them out. So there's your fix for the, giant children problem.
All right. One and done, as it said. One and done. That's a wrap.
Well done.
But the tiny things, I did no idea on that one.
No, all right, that's fine. I just wanted to. Hey, we're bartering now. We gotta talk about funny stuff. It's too late. I've had 4.5 beers. I'm about to finish my 5th, and that's why it devolves into penis jokes. So that's where we go. All right. So anybody else?
Mike.
Yeah. What's up, bro?
Yeah. Also, there's another thing to add to that. And now in the Sumerian story, when they with Enki and his, he was mating with the human beings, right? And they were in a giant stature. But the one thing when he mated with it wasn't like he mated. The wording that they used, because they talked about when they had he had slept with his sister, his step or half sister, but when he had sex with humans, it wasn't really he had sex. They said when they got him pregnant, the word they use is he poured his semen into their wombs. So it almost sounds like it is
like a giant situation.
There you go. See?
Yeah.
See?
So it's
I was
pretty.
thinking about that mutual masturbation. Just do it on my, splash it on my thing, and I'll just,
Yeah.
on my face.
See?
Whatever.
Hey, look. Hey, if you got to look, every motherfucker out there, if you got to the end of this podcast and you didn't laugh, what are you doing here? What the fuck are you doing here? All right, let's get the hell out. Anybody else got a final penis joke before we bounce about it?
No. But I did laugh so hard that I snorted so deep.
All right. Welcome. Welcome to the Thunderdome. Yeah, sometimes you just gotta laugh at yourself. All right. We've devolved into penis jokes far too long. Let's get the hell out of here. All right, this is the way this works.
That's what she said.
That's what she said, exactly, right? That's what she said. All right, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to get the hell out of here. The good news, the bad news is we're done. The good news is, God willing, we've got tomorrow. Again, take care of your family, take care of yourself, take care of all the people around you. Don't forget that the people, even that look at you sideways, we have more in common than we have in differences. And they don't want us to believe that, but I believe that. I believe that. And again, bigotry in all its forms should be rejected, because humanity is humanity, and that's it, right? All its forms, not reordered to your bullshit political take. Bigotry in all its forms, rejected, right? You see, that's my take on all that. I want to make sure that I'm clear. But of course, one day when we get there, George Soros and his Media Matters will cut me out of context and make sure that they don't include that. But they're a bunch of fucking racists. So just to be, there you go, to be very clear. But let's get the fuck out of here. Let's do it. If you don't enjoy a good penis joke and a good conversation about Tartarus and Titans of the Primordial Earth, and you're still here, you need help. You need help. Don't make me put hotlines down in the fucking chat. Let's get the hell out of here. Thank you so much for being part of this. All right, let's roll. All right, so it goes like this, right? If you want to, if you appreciate and this is the thing, right? This is not like we are blessed. This community is blessed in that we have brilliant people accepting each other, talking about amazing things and having brilliant conversations, right? And it's rare. It's rare anymore. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm saying it's rare. And so if you're still here, there's a reason you're still here. If you want to help the show, there are ways to help this show, all right? Number one, first and foremost, always, we can beat the algorithms, not the algorithm, which you should follow on YouTube. That guy, that's a cool dude. That's Mike in Colorado. Algorithm, like dancing, space in between. But to beat the algorithms themselves that don't want us coming together because they fear, right? They fear us realizing we have more in common than we have differences. They don't want us doing that. They don't want us laughing and yucking it up. These social clubs sort of thing, you know why they had to do it in secret back in the day. Because if they could had it in a public forum like this, and somebody could be like, oh my God, these people they're fucking creating a movement. It's not a movement. It's just an acceptance. Hey, it's okay. You struggle. I struggle. We all struggle. We're all human. But you see how powerful it becomes when we get together. And it scares the piss out of the powers that be. It's an important thing. If you want to help the show, a few ways. Patreon. Rockfin. Twitch, you can sub up monetarily. 3 ways. The first actually, spread the word. We beat the algorithms by spreading the word. The last, listen to the podcast feed. Simple as that. If you want to help the show, look, I'm telling you, this is not about conquering the world. This whole thing has never been about conquering the world. This whole thing has been, as we've done all of this, it's been about getting together and hearing what you think. Right? So think about that. 2 years of grind, or 2.5 years, or even 3 years of grind to build this. And there are lots of people involved. Again, Kelly, Joe, we've got lots of people who've been in this for years. Kelly, as far as I can remember, the first caller on this show, he's been at this with us for years. There's people that have been building this for years so we can get to this point. It's not easy. Please, there are ways to help us. I'm not saying I'm quitting. I'm saying that we're at the point where this shit needs to kick off the rails. I need your help. We need your help. It's an important conversation, in my opinion. So please. Any of those things I asked, please do. Many of them are free. As we finish, this is for my good friend Jay in New York. We're done. The bad news is we're done. The good news is, God willing, we got tomorrow. Look, Thursday night is the final night of Troubled Minds for the week. But I don't care. We got tomorrow, the next day, the next day, the next day. Cross your fingers, assuming everything's fine. I don't know. What else do I fucking say? Let's get out of here. Too many phallus jokes. Too many, this is how you help the show. I don't fucking know. Anybody got an outro for us?
I do.
Roll it.
Okay, this is from an unknown. Storms make trees take deeper roots. And if we look at ourselves collectively, we are a storm.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Back to that Margaret Mead quote from Daryl as well. Look, I'm me, you're you, together we're us. You see? It makes a huge difference. And I'm not even asking you to vote for fucking anybody. I'm not asking you to accept some political opinion. I think it's all horse shit. I'm just asking you to think for yourself. That's all. Right? It's not even a big ask. Come hang out. Come do the thing. Come be here with us. Thank you, Tam Bam. Thanks everybody else for being part of this. We're out of here. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. Pacific, more Troubled Minds on the way. I have no fucking idea what the show is. We'll figure it out between now and then. If you have ideas, Discord, troubledminds.org, troubledmindsradio@gmail. Contact me. Tonight was sponsored by James and Derek. There you go. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being part of this. Thanks for enduring the dick jokes and laughing with us. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Wait, did I miss? Wait.
I miss somebody?
Be sure.
Oh, yeah. You want to do it? Do it, Tam.
I'm going to do it differently.
Do it.
Are you sure? Are you strong? Are you true?
Thank you for listening. From our troubled minds to yours, have a great night.
Ow, ow, ow. Ow.
3, 2, 1. The stream ends.